Chapter 257. Giving Birth to a Spiritual Body? Double lottery draw _1. After paying respects to his parents with Chu Zhenjin, Lu Chongsheng returned to Rui County City. He stayed in Rui County City for 3 days, accompanying his wives and children. Before leaving with Xia Zizhu and Chu Zhenjin, he did not return to Qingzhou Mountain. Instead, he went directly to Nine Dragons Market. One reason was to avoid making an extra trip. Additionally, he would have use for this flying boat later on. He needed to send several maids and children from the marketplace into the mundane world. 5 days later, the flying boat descended outside Nine Dragons Market. After securing temporary identity plaques for the 2 women, Lu Chongxing entered the marketplace. Back when he left Qingzhou Mountain, 7 of the 9 pregnant women had already given birth. The remaining 2 would also give birth in a couple of months. Now I already have 18 children with a spiritual root, but I don't know if these 2 children will have spiritual roots. Lu Chongxing felt somewhat expectant in his heart. Both maids were purchased from White Jade Tower and possessed 9th grade spiritual roots. Therefore, there was a not-so-small chance that the children in their wombs would have spiritual roots. However, it was very unlikely for both to possess spiritual roots. Lu Chongxing did not pay too much attention to it. After settling Chu Zhenjin and Xia Zizhu, Lu Chongxing took Xia Zizhu to the neighboring courtyard. That was the courtyard where Xiaolong once lived. He wanted his daughter to see her father's former residence. Looking at the deserted courtyard covered in dust, and thinking of her deceased father, Xia Zizhu felt profound grief and her eyes reddened. Usually unable to bear such scenes, Lu Chongxing sighed as well. He could only comfort her as much as possible. He let her cry out for her father all night, filling the void in her spirit. The next day, Lu Chongxing went to the Lu family compound in the Eastern District. He met the already present second elder, and took back control of the spiritual talisman shop. In the half-year he had been gone, without the supply of supreme talismans from the 4th elder and a decrease in superior talismans, the shop's business inevitably suffered. Faced with this situation, the Lu family's approach was straightforward. Hold promotions and provide more superior and supreme talismans, allowing the business to begin to recover. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. In these 3 months, only Xiaohuang, who had been left behind, was pregnant. It wasn't that Lu Chongxing didn't want to have more children. The maids with spiritual roots had just given birth not long ago and needed to recuperate. Xia Zizhu's cultivation had just broken through to the 3rd level of qi refinement. Lu Chongxing planned to wait until she reached the 4th level of qi refinement and the middle stage before considering having children again. As for ordinary maids like Bai He and Haitang who lacked spiritual roots, now that he had so many wives and maids, Lu Chongxing planned not to have any more children with them. After all, he believed in quality over quantity. I've been out for over 3 months now. It's time to go back. In the spiritual talisman shop, after completing his meditation and cultivation, Lu Chongsheng opened his eyes and exhaled lightly. He prepared to return to Qingzhou Mountain and see his wives and children. He did not go directly back to Qingzhou Mountain. Instead, he steered the flying boat, taking Chu Zhenjin and sending maids like Bai He and Haitang as well as a group of children to the secular world. As for Xia Zizhu, he temporarily settled her in Nine Dragons Market. One reason was that Nine Dragons Market needed someone to look after it. Additionally, having just married Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan not long ago, it seemed somewhat improper to bring someone back from outside the house so soon. After settling the maids and children into the mundane world and staying for 2 days, Lu Chongxing took Chu Zhenjin back to Qingzhou Mountain. Upon returning to Qingzhou Mountain, Lu Chongxing gave the spirit boat back. He stayed at home for 3 days, accompanying his wives and children. The yin-yang harmony technique's 5 aggregates proliferation method also came into play at this moment. However, the 5 aggregates proliferation method was not a sure hit. It merely increased the odds. Lu Chongxing didn't know how effective it had been over these 3 days. 3 days later, amidst the reluctance of his wives, Lu Chongxing rode the Iron Feather Eagle, taking Jiang Luiyue back to Nine Dragons Market, Qingyun Sect, Kaiyun Peak, Mingyue Residence. Xiao Xia was dressed in a long white gown, with a cool and ethereal demeanor, resembling a fairy from the moon palace. Clouds are heartless. The moon is heartless. She looked at the supreme forgetful love technique she was cultivating. She had completely understood the methods in the technique and even cultivated it to the 9th level of qi refinement. But when it came to the states of mind and the artistic conception of the technique, she could never grasp the essentials and failed to comprehend them. After pondering for a long while, Xiao Xie let out a soft sigh, took the cultivation technique, and went to the highest palace at the top of Kaiyun Peak. Upon reaching the palace, she saw a tall, slender, and breathtakingly beautiful figure in colorful garments standing in a daze at the railing, gazing into the distance. From the side, one could discern her magnificent curves under the loose, colorful garments, resembling a valley among rolling hills. Her long, silky, jet-black hair hung down to her waist, almost covering her mature and full curves. "Master!" Xiao Xie called out respectfully. She couldn't remember when it started, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Her master began to enjoy standing alone, gazing into the distance. "Shiyu, you've come. Is there something you need?" Yun Wanshang turned her head to look at her, her stunning face revealing a gentle smile. "Master, I've disappointed you. I'm still unable to grasp the state of mind of the supreme forgetful love technique." Xiao Xie held out the technique in her hand and spoke softly. "Sigh." Yun Wanshang looked at her disciple who once was lively and clever, now cool and indifferent due to the supreme forgetful love technique. Her beautiful eyes tranquilly impassive, and her demeanor pure and saintly, and she let out a slight sigh. "Shiyu, the first layer state of mind of the supreme forgetful love technique is clouds are heartless. The moon is heartless. What's your understanding of it?" Yun Wanshang asked. "Both the clouds and the moon are in the sky, yet the moon is thousands of miles away from the clouds, with no interrelation between the two. Naturally, the clouds are heartless, and so is the moon." Xiao Xie replied, explaining her understanding. Chapter 258. A month later, Qingyun sect. On the misty white jade square filled with celestial aura, hundreds of young men and women left with heavy hearts and low spirits. Yunlu, Xingyue, remember to cultivate diligently within Qingyun sect and feel free to send a message home if anything comes up. You can also seek help from your uncles Han and Zhao, and your auntie Zhao. Lu Chongxing spoke to his children before him. Today marked the once every 5 years Immortal sect's exam of Qingyun sect. Since Hong Yi had sent his son, Hong Xuanji, to participate in the Immortal sect's exam at Qingyun sect, Lu Chongxing thought it over and decided to have several of his children take the exam as well. After all, cultivating at an Immortal sect and learning skills in many aspects was indeed better than at home. Moreover, Qingyun sect wasn't far from home. Sending the children there meant they would not only receive the family's training but also that of the sect. However, only those under 18 could participate in the Qingyun sect exam, so naturally Lu Pingon, Lu Yun, and Lu Chuanjin couldn't take part. Hence, out of the 8 children he chose to send for the Immortal sect's discipleship exam, only his son Lu Yunlu and daughter Lu Xingyue, both with 6th grade spiritual roots, passed the assessment. The other 6 children, along with Hong Xuanji, failed to make it through the exam. Through connections, Lu Chongxing also had a rough understanding of Qingyun sect's criteria for accepting disciples. Spiritual root, perseverance, comprehension, Tao heart. The assessment was based on these 4 areas. But there was another unspoken criterion. Age. Like Hong Xuanji with a 7th grade spiritual root, performed well in all 3 aspects of the exam but was disqualified because he was 18 years old. "Brother-in-law, rest assured, I will take good care of Yunlu and Xingyue," said a good-looking young man in his late 20s, standing tall and wearing the Qingyun sect disciple's magical robe. Next to him, it was Xia Ziju's brother, Xia Zhaoyang. With a 4th grade spiritual root, he was doing quite well in Qingyun sect, with a cultivation level of 8th level energy refinement, and he had hopes to reach foundation establishment in the future. "All right, in that case, I'm counting on you to look after Yunlu and Xingyue," Lu Chongshang said to his brother-in-law with a nod and a smile. He hadn't interacted much with Xia Zhaoyang, only conversing a few times. However, his impression of the man was decent, not one of heartlessness or unfaithfulness. After giving his instructions, Lu Chongsheng walked down from the White Jade Square, leaving with the 6 children who had been eliminated and Hong Xuanji. Xingyue, Yunlu, although you've passed the exam, you are only outer disciples. Besides cultivation, you need to choose a skill to learn. Which skill do you plan to study? Xia Zhaoyang asked, turning to the 2 nieces and nephews. However, the look he gave Lu Xingyue was noticeably more affectionate. He had been cared for by his sister Xia Zizhu since he was a child. Over the years at Qingyun sect, Xia Zizhu often sent him a portion of her own cultivation resources and accumulated spirit stones. Thus, he always kept this familial love in his heart. Father said I can choose medicine, Lu Xingyue replied crisply. Although she had met this uncle several times, she still wasn't very familiar with him, and her voice held a hint of estrangement. Father told me to choose artifact refining, Lu Yunlu said. Good. It'll take you there, Xia Zhaoyang said, nodding his head and leading them away. Even though Qingyun sect had uniform arrangements as a disciple of Qingyun sect, he knew some of the ins and outs. For instance, if the sect knew someone had a family member there, they were typically escorted by that member, which meant the outer disciples in charge might show a little more care and attention. At the entrance of Qingyun sect, many young men and women who failed to pass the exam left with sorrowful and disappointed expressions, some even crying out loud. Under such circumstances, Lu Changsheng's other 6 children were also downcast, pressing their lips tightly together. Seeing this scene, Lu Chongsheng couldn't help but reminisce about his own feelings upon learning that he had been rejected by Qingyun sect 25 years ago. He patted his children's heads and said with an air of calm, "It's all right if you didn't pass. I wanted you to gain some experience by bringing you here. Xuanji, you shouldn't take it too hard either." Lu Chongsheng didn't feel too strongly about the children's failure to pass, because he had anticipated it, and he also maintained an indifferent attitude about it. They walked out of the mountain gate, where Hong Yi was eagerly waiting outside. His face immediately fell upon seeing Lu Chongsheng and his son exiting. He had high hopes for his son, Hong Xuanji, wanting him to join an immortal sect and surpass himself. But now, seeing his son walk out of the gate, he knew the boy hadn't passed the exam. Brother Lu, Xuanji. Hong Yi greeted Lu Chongsheng with a hand-over-fist salute. Xuanji did well in several areas of the exam, but he was disqualified because he's a little too old, Lu Chongsheng explained to Hong Yi. Father, I have let you down. Your next red awaits at my virtual library Empire, Hong Xuanji said, slightly bowing his head to his father. He knew how much his father wished for him to be accepted into Qingyun sect. Ah, it's okay. Hong Yi sighed deeply, patted his son's shoulder, and didn't say much more. Many others, like Hong Yi, showed sadness and disappointment when they saw their children or younger family members walking out of the gate. Most of them, being loose cultivators, understood the hardship of such a path and wished for their offspring to be admitted into an immortal sect. Brother Hong, Xuanji is quite talented and intelligent, and he will not fare poorly in the future even if he hasn't joined an immortal sect. We ourselves were once rejected by Qingyun sect as well, weren't we? Lu Chongxing said to comfort him. If Xuanji's future turns out a bit like mine, that would be decent, but it's audacious to compare him with you, Brother Lu, Hong Yi said with a bitter smile on his face. Then, turning to Lu Chongxing, he said with a hand-over-fist salute, Brother Lu, I have an audacious request. Ha ha, Brother Hong, just speak freely. Sarch * the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Lu Chongxing laughed lightly and replied, guessing somewhat what Hong Yi was about to ask. I was hoping, Brother Lu, that you could let Xuanji continue to work it by Lake Mountain. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 259. This day marked the annual family clan meeting of the Lu family. This year, the Lu family was still in a state of loss. However, compared to the previous year, the situation had relatively improved a lot. Faced with this situation, Lu Chongxing didn't say much. He simply stated that they should keep up the effort, and if there were any children in the family who had ideas about marriage, taking a wife, or concubinage, they could bring it up actively and let the clan arrange it. After all, on by Lake Mountainside, only his son Lu Xianji was married, which truly worried him as an elderly father. Chongsheng, the internal organ issues of your uncle have improved quite a lot under my treatment with Tai True Water. If you have some free time, you could try to help your great-uncle remove the corpse poison. After the family clan meeting concluded, Lu Miaoge said softly to Lu Chongsheng. Previously, Lu Chongsheng had said that once she had managed Lu Yuanzhong's internal organ issues more or less, he could attempt to use sword qi to drive out the poison. All right, they'll go with you in a few days. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongsheng held Lu Miaoge's hand and spoke warmly. The three of them returned to Chongqing Hall, where Lu Miaoge typically used Tai True Water to nourish and heal Ling Zixio's meridians and Dantian. Looking at the beautiful and gentle Lu Miaoge in front of him, Lu Chongqing felt he needed to refine the foundation establishment elixir as soon as possible. Over 2 years had passed, with Lu Miaoge constantly running back and forth between Qingzhou Mountain and Bai Lake Mountain. Normally, she would also need to oversee the Red Leaf Valley Market, which kept her extraordinarily busy. Now that he had gathered almost all the auxiliary materials for the foundation establishment elixir, only 2 more medicinal ingredients were left. Thinking of refining the foundation establishment elixir as soon as possible and giving one to the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain, just as long as there was someone from Qingzhou Mountain who made a breakthrough and a new foundation-building great cultivator was born, Lu Miaoge wouldn't have to be so busy, and she could cultivate peacefully on by Lake Mountain with the effect of the Tai Dao seed. Lu Miaoge's cultivation speed was not at all inferior to those with high-grade spiritual roots. Yet because she was busy and constantly healing Lu Yuanzhong and Ling Zixiao, her own cultivation had been delayed. 3 days later, after informing Xiao Xia and Ling Zixiao, Lu Chongsheng went with Lu Miaoge to Qingzhou Mountain to help Lu Yuanzhong eliminate the corpse poison. Considering that Lu Miaoyun and Lu Miaohuan had also not returned for quite a long time, he took both women with him, as well as his son Lu Yun, Lu Qingsong, and others to go together. Chongsheng Miaoge, you've come. Learning of Lu Changsheng's arrival, people like Lu Yuanzhong and Lu Yuanding came out to welcome them. Father-in-law, uncle. Lu Chongsheng greeted the newcomers cheerfully. After a simple catch-up, Lu Chongsheng checked Lu Yuanzhong's condition. Under Lu Miaoge's application of Tai True Water, Lu Yuanzhong's organs, which had been corrupted by the corpse poison, regained vitality. But the issue of the corpse poison in the organs still hadn't been resolved, clinging to the organs like a persistent illness. Ancestor, although I am somewhat confident in driving out the poison, now that the corpse poison has integrated with your organs, it might be hard to completely eradicate it. If the detox goes too deep, it could also harm your organs, Lu Chongsheng said after pondering for a moment. Chongsheng, just do as you see fit, Lu Yuanzhong said. With the strength and methods Lu Chongsheng had shown and the changes in Lu Miaoge, he had utmost faith in Lu Chongsheng. Continue your journey at my virtual library empire. All right. Lu Chongsheng nodded, asking Lu Yuanzhong to lie down. He placed his palm on the man's chest and began to drive out the corpse poison with the 7 luminaries' sword qi. Such a domineering and fierce sword qi. Lu Yuanzhong's expression shifted slightly, revealing a look of shock in his eyes. Through the 7 luminaries' sword qi, he instantly felt that Lu Changsheng's mana was overwhelmingly powerful and domineering, even more so than Lu Miaoge's mana. He marveled internally at what cultivation technique Lu Chongsheng practiced to possess such tyrannical mana and sword qi. Had it not been for this treatment, he truly wouldn't have known the extent of Lu Changsheng's combat power, thinking that Lu Changsheng's true skills lay in talismans. Now, it seemed Lu Chongsheng hadn't fully wielded his power against the 3 foundation establishment cultivators from the Yu family back then. Sister Miaoge used Tai True Water to protect Uncle's meridians. Lu Chongsheng carefully removed some of the residual corpse poison from Lu Yuanzhong's organs with the 7 luminaries' sword qi, but the corpse poison had lingered for years, like a disease in the bone, quite troublesome to handle. If the sword qi was too fierce, it could easily harm Lu Yuanzhong. Sarch * the Nelfer. Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. All right. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoge immediately circulated her mana. her palms radiating blue halos, enveloping Lu Yuanzhong's organs with condensed Tai true water. In this manner, the two of them worked together to drive the poison out of Lu Yuanzhong. Yet Lu Yuanzhong's condition was indeed troublesome. Even Lu Chongqing dared only to remove some surface remnants of the corpse poison, unable to thoroughly cleanse the deep-seated poison. "Uncle, you should focus on recuperating for a few days. When the situation improves a bit more, I will try to drive the poison out further." An hour later, Lu Chongqing withdrew his hand, exhaling deeply, and spoke to Lu Yunfeng. His 7 luminary sword qi detox, while effective, was somewhat akin to a painful remedy, with a risk of damaging the organs. "Chongsheng Miaoge, thank you for your hard work," Lu Yuanzhong said solemnly. After the battle at Blackwater Pool, he thought his life wouldn't last much longer, but now the Lu family not only gained Lu Miaoge, a Foundation establishment great cultivator, but together they were also able to address his corpse poison. In his view, even if they could not fully eradicate it, living a few more decades was worth it. "Uncle, you're being too polite," Lu Chongqing said with a smile. He and Lu Miaoge decided to stay at Qingzhou Mountain temporarily, doing their best to address Lu Yuanzhong's condition. Search the novel Fire Net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 260. Giving Birth to a Spiritual Body, Double Lottery Draw, Shi Yu. Clouds embrace the light of Yuer, casting the shadow of a colorful cloud upon the ground. To those on earth, it appears the moon rests among the clouds as they wrap around each other, coexisting in reliance. Therefore, to achieve the essence of the supreme forgetful love technique, one must aspire to become heartless and forget emotion. Yet one must first face the emotional trials, joy, sorrow, separation, and reunion, to gain a profound enlightenment and a deep understanding of the mysteries of forgetting emotion. Previously, your teacher had asked Elder Yun to refine the red dust elixir, hoping that with its aid, you would comprehend the chaos of mortal life and could skip this step. But now it seems that, in the end, you must rely on yourself. Yun Wanshang uttered these words. Although she had not practiced the supreme forgetful love technique herself, as a nascent soul immortal, her vision was naturally exceptional. She knew the profound mysteries of the supreme forgetful love technique. To face the emotional trials. Xiao Xie naturally knew what it meant to face emotional trials. It meant experiencing worldly love, joy, sorrow, separation, and reunion. However, as she practiced the supreme forgetful love technique, she could feel herself becoming more and more indifferent, rarely moved by emotions or disturbed by feelings. Under such circumstances, to experience joy, sorrow, separation, and reunion was extremely difficult. As for love, having practiced the supreme forgetful love technique, Xiao Xie no longer knew what love was. Shi Yu, if you cannot succeed, then you need not continue practicing the supreme forgetful love technique. To indulge in such a cultivation technique without success may lead you astray into a demonic path, wasting your potential. With your talent and aptitude, even without practicing the supreme forgetful love technique, you can still build a flawless Tao foundation. Yun Wanshang spoke, saying so. She had been hesitant at first to allow Xiao Xie to practice the supreme forgetful love technique. But 5 years ago, after undergoing an emotional trial herself, her mindset and thoughts also changed. She gradually realized that emotional trials were not so easily overcome. One lapse could ensnare one completely. After being silent for a long while, Xiao Xie softly said, "Master, I wish to try again. I will give you 3 more years. If you do not succeed within this time, you will give up the supreme forgetful love technique," said Yun Wanshang to her disciple. Shi Yu shall heed master's words. In Xiao Xie's cool eyes, a gentle and lively smile appeared. Half a year later, Qingzhou Valley. Lu Chongsheng and Lu Miaoyun supported Lu Miaoge outside the birthing room. Lu Yuanding was also nearby. The family head paced back and forth. He clenched and unclenched his fists, his expression extremely tense. The reason was simple. Lu Miaohuan was about to give birth. Father-in-law, with Miaohuan's 6th-level energy refinement cultivation level, there should be no problems, Lu Chongqing consoled, seeing the family head for the first time with such an expression. Lu Yuanding nodded, but he still focused on the birthing room, filled with anxiety. Seeing this, Lu Chongqing didn't know what else to say. Saying too much would seem as if he, as a husband and soon-to-be father, did not care for his wife and child. Suddenly, wah! A loud cry of an infant burst forth from the room. It caused everyone outside to shudder and their faces to beam with joy. At that moment, Lu Chongqing felt a strong surge within him, an indescribable sensation. Simultaneously, 2 system notifications sounded in his mind. Congratulations to the host for fathering 20 children with spiritual roots. You have earned 1 chance to draw a lottery. Congratulations to the host for the first birth of a child with a spiritual body. You have earned 1 chance to draw a lottery. What? A spiritual body? Hearing the notifications, Lu Changsheng's heart was overwhelmed, and he was ecstatic. He hadn't expected the child born of Lu Miaohuan to not only have a spiritual root but also a spiritual body. A spiritual body was 1 in 10,000. At the current stage, he had never even dreamed that any of his children might possess a spiritual body. Having a spiritual root was already more than enough for him. But unexpectedly, the surprise was so unforeseen. The 90th child was the first to be born with a spiritual body. Seeing Lu Changsheng's excited and ecstatic demeanor, Lu Yuanding nodded approvingly, thinking Lu Chongqing wasn't so bad after all. In seeing such joy and excitement on the face of his son-in-law while his daughter gave birth, it showed he cherished and adored Lu Miaohuan. It's born. Chongsheng, quick, go in and take a look, urged Lu Yuanding to Lu Chongqing. Without checking the system for his child's spiritual root and spiritual body details, Lu Chongqing immediately pushed open the door and entered. Congratulations, son-in-law, it's a young master, the midwife said to Lu Chongqing, beaming with happiness. Good. Lu Chongqing nodded happily, handing out 2 spirit stones as a token of celebration, and then he approached the bed. Looking at Lu Miaohuan, who was a bit weak from holding the child, he took her hand and said, Huan, you've worked hard. Lu Chongqing, it hurt a lot, Lu Miaohuan said with a look of grievance as soon as she saw Lu Chongqing. It's my fault, letting you suffer. Lu Chongqing immediately soothed. Then he looked at the child and said, This is our child, so adorable. Ordinary children are all wrinkled at birth. But Lu Chongqing knew that children born to cultivators were different, with skin smooth and radiant, never wrinkled. Such children, even without a spiritual root, would be martial prodigies if they practiced martial arts in the future. He, so tiny? Lu Miaohuan said, smiling happily as she teased their little one in her arms. The baby didn't cry but peered around with round, curious eyes, gazing at the world. Let's go see father-in-law, suggested Lu Chongqing. Not wanting to keep Lu Yuanding waiting outside any longer, the couple carried the child and stepped out of the room. Oh, my dear grandchild, let me have a look. Lu Yuanding, who had been waiting impatiently outside, was thrilled to see Lu Chongqing and Lu Miaohuan with the baby and eagerly moved closer to hold the child, his eyes crinkling with a smile. Chapter 261. Giving birth to a spiritual body, double lottery draw. He bore none of the composure that the patriarch of the Lu family usually displayed. He reached out to touch and pinch the baby's small face, causing the infant to cry out with a wah. Ha ha ha, you shu! Huaner's child is born. Your grandson is born? Did you hear that? Lu Yuanding, however, started laughing, his eyes moistening as he did. Hearing this, everyone knew that Lu Yuanding was missing his wife, the mother of Lu Miaohuan and Lu Miaoga. Oh, there, don't cry. Lu Yuanding began to soothe the child again. Chongqing, let's name the child Qing Shan, Lu Yuanding said aloud. He had previously mentioned the naming of the child. thinking of the names for the children of Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan. A boy would be named Qingshan, and a girl Qingzhu, as father-in-law wishes. Lu Chongxing nodded. He had been through so many names already. He wasn't particularly concerned about naming, feeling that it was all the same regardless of who chose it. He also knew that the name Lu Yuanding had chosen carried the meaning of Qingzhu Mountain. In this manner, with everyone making merry and soothing the baby, Lu Chongxing finally found some free time after dinner. System. Lu Chongxing entered the study and silently called out in his mind. Name, Lu Chongxing. Identity. Son-in-law of the Lu family of Qingzhu Mountain. Cultivation level. 8th level energy refinement. Lifespan. 29/155. Talents. 6th grade spiritual root. Gungjin body constitution. Medium grade spiritual body. Cultivation techniques. 100 refinements treasure body art. 7 luminaries great freedom sword scripture. Yin-yang harmony technique. Immortal beauty technique. Spells. 7 luminaries sword beam. 7 luminaries sword shield. 7 luminaries sword flight. Items. Golden light brick talisman treasure. Black dragon magical bead. Book of malevolent curses and fates. Life substituting talisman. Profound origin bead. 2nd rank puppet. Skills. Talisman making. 2nd rank. Puppetry. 2nd rank. Spiritual pets. 9 netherhound. Peach blossom goo. Descendants. 9097. Gungjin body constitution. Is this my child's spiritual body? Lu Chongxing saw that an additional Gungjin body constitution was listed under his own talents. Immediately, he knew this was his son, Lu Qingshan's spiritual body. He instantly looked toward the descendants section, his spirit stirring slightly. Name, Lu Qingshan. Lifespan, 184th. Talents. 6th grade spiritual root. Gungjin body constitution. Medium grade spiritual body. Cultivation level. None. As expected. Lu Chongxing saw the panel for his son and inwardly said as expected. Not only did he possess a 6th grade spiritual root, but also the Gungjin body constitution. The Gungjin body constitution is one of the more common types among the 5 elements spiritual body. I wonder which attribute my son's spiritual root leans towards. If the spiritual root also leans toward the metal attribute, even with a 6th grade spiritual root, as long as he cultivates metal attribute cultivation techniques, his cultivation speed will not be any weaker than those with higher grade spiritual roots. Lu Chongxing felt a surge of excitement and joy. Out of curiosity about spiritual bodies and because of Xia Zizhu's spiritual body, he had looked through a lot of information about them. He knew some of the more common spiritual bodies. This Gungjin body constitution was one of them. Although it wasn't considered a rare spiritual body, it was still a spiritual body. Knowing that this type of spiritual body, when paired with a spiritual root of the same attribute and cultivating metal attribute cultivation techniques, could match the cultivation speed of a higher grade spiritual root. Moreover, it didn't just enhance the cultivation speed. Cultivating the corresponding attribute techniques, spells, and divine skills would also be more powerful, surpassing those of the same rank. It would be best if it's a metal attribute spiritual root, but it doesn't matter if it's not. Moreover, I have the 7 luminaries great freedom sword scripture, so there's no need to worry about any attribute of cultivation techniques unless my son has a mutant spiritual root. Lu Chongxing exhaled softly. There was now an added anticipation for the future of this child. He was the first prodigy of the Lu family. All the children before had lower grade spiritual roots. This one not only has a middle grade spiritual root, but also possesses a spiritual body. Immediately after, Lu Chongxing began his cultivation in a seated position. He personally experienced the effects of this Gungjin body constitution. After a long while, is it because the child has just been born, and the spiritual body is still growing? After briefly cultivating, Lu Chongxing could feel his intake and outflow of spiritual energy during qi refinement was smoother with the metal attribute. But the effect was not as astounding or transformative as one might imagine. He guessed in his heart that it was because the child was newly born. Like the spiritual root, this Gungjin body constitution was still growing. It needed to reach a certain age to be fully developed. I cultivate the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture, and this Gungjin body constitution mainly enhances the lethality of my spells somewhat, not contributing much to cultivation itself. The quickness of metal attribute spiritual energy might even affect the balance I maintain while cultivating the other attributes. Unless in the future I have more children, providing me with one of each of the 5 elements spiritual body types, Lu Chongqing mused to himself. He knew that such a spiritual body is best paired with corresponding attribute cultivation techniques. If one cultivates other attribute techniques, it might even be detrimental. And the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture that he cultivated required maintaining a balance among the 7 attributes of yin, yang, and the 5 elements. Lu Chongqing didn't pay too much attention to this. Thinking of the 2 additional draw chances he had, he silently invoked, "System draw." Immediately, the system's spinning wheel appeared. "Start the draw." Seeing the roulette wheel, Lu Chongqing didn't overthink it. With a thought, he directly initiated the draw. Suddenly, a beam of golden light swiftly moved around the wheel, eventually settling on elixir medicines. Ding! Congratulations, host, on obtaining a 3rd-rank coagulation crystal elixir. Reward has been issued to the system space, available for host to check at any time. An elixir medicine icon emerged from the spinning wheel, accompanied by a system notification. Coagulation crystal elixir? Lu Chongqing was surprised to see what he had drawn. He naturally knew what the coagulation crystal elixir was. It was somewhat similar to the foundation establishment elixir, but it was many times more precious than a foundation establishment elixir. An elixir that could help foundation establishment cultivators increase their chances of reaching core formation and enhance the quality of their core. For most cultivators, even a foundation establishment elixir was a luxury, hard to come by. And this coagulation crystal elixir that aids in core formation, its preciousness could be imagined. Elixir medicine, coagulation crystal elixir, quality, 3rd rank. Description: when a cultivator at the peak of foundation establishment attempts core formation, consuming this can increase the chances of core formation by 30% and also improve the quality of the core formed. Within the system space, information about the coagulation crystal elixir appeared. 30% increase in the chances of forming a core, and it even has some benefits to the core's quality. It seems this coagulation crystal elixir is just like the lifespan extension pill I drew before, belonging to the supreme category, which is why it has such effects, Lu Chongqing thought. With this coagulation crystal elixir, I won't have to worry about core formation once I have established my foundation, Lu Chongqing said with a joyful expression. He had initially wanted to draw a foundation establishment elixir. Unexpectedly, his draw turned out to be a coagulation crystal elixir, which was of a higher grade and more precious than a foundation establishment elixir. But core formation is still quite far off for me, Lu Chongqing sighed lightly, deciding not to dwell further on the coagulation crystal elixir. He planned to just store it in the system space. He would take it out when the time came to use it. Continue with the draw. Lu Chongqing looked at the system spinning wheel in front of him and proceeded with the draw. This was his first time doing consecutive draws. Having just drawn a coagulation crystal elixir, his heart was filled with the expectation of drawing something that he could actually use. Even though coagulation crystal elixirs were precious at his current stage, they were not immediately usable and would just collect dust. As the draw continued, the golden light on the spinning wheel moved, eventually stopping at the pets category. Chapter 262. Li Feiyu leaves. The Lu family ancestor passes away. Understand one thing. Congratulations, host, for obtaining a 6-winged golden silkworm larva. The reward has been delivered to the system space. The host can check at any time. A golden insect pattern with a shining glow and a pair of wings on its back emerged from the big roulette wheel, accompanied by the sound of a system notification. 6-winged golden silkworm? Lu Chongqing looked at the reward drawn by the system, his eyebrows raised. He hadn't expected that among pet beasts, there were not only beasts but also bugs. This means that the pet lottery encompasses everything: feathers, fur, scales, insects, plants, and so on. If that's the case, in the future if I draw a plant demon pet, I won't have to worry about the spirit plants for cultivating the heavenly longevity technique. Lu Chongqing thought to himself. He had not forgotten the heavenly longevity technique he had acquired from Xiaolong. He had always thought that once he had the strength and conditions, he would have his wives and children plant trees for cultivation. Without further thought, Lu Changsheng's mental spirit gave a slight stir as he looked towards the six-winged golden silkworm he had just drawn. Magical bug, six-winged golden silkworm, rank, heaven rank superior, description, one of the ancient rare insect species, lays eggs once every 100 years, hatches into larvae after another century. Newly hatched larvae have only one pair of wings, but mature ones have 3. They are fearless against divine skills and magic, but are ferocious, with low intelligence and difficult to tame. SS, a heaven rank superior magical bug? Even a rank higher than the 9 Netherhound's bloodline. I wonder how long it will take for this six-winged golden silkworm to mature and develop 6 wings. Lu Chongqing considered the information about the six-winged golden silkworm, thinking to himself. What concerned him most was how long it would take for the six-winged golden silkworm to grow. After all, at the moment, the most challenging part about pet beasts was their cultivation phase. Cultivation times spanning dozens or hundreds of years were truly testing. For example, the 9 Netherhound had been at first-grade primary level for many years. Only about half a year ago, when Lu Chongqing finally had some surplus funds, he bought some spiritual beast pills for Lu Pingon to feed it regularly. It's now almost reaching the first-grade middle stage. Regarding the system's description that the six-winged golden silkworm is ferocious, unintelligent, and hard to tame, Lu Chongqing didn't take it to heart at all. What does difficulty in taming have to do with him? Extract. With a flicker of his mental spirit, Lu Chongqing took the six-winged golden silkworm out of the system space. Instantly, a golden silkworm about an inch long, as thick as a little finger, appeared. This silkworm had a pair of thin, cicad-like wings behind it. The wings shimmered with a faint golden light and emanated a violent and murderous aura. The six-winged golden silkworm lays eggs every 100 years, hatches in another 100, and when the larvae hatch, they are as hard as iron, comparable to magic artifacts, and immune to primary-level techniques. To grow from a larva to a 4-winged silkworm, it takes 200 years, equivalent to 3rd-rank strength. To grow from 4 wings to 6 wings, corresponding to 4th-rank peak, it needs 1,000 years. Lu Chongqing looked at the 6-winged golden silkworm in his hand and developed a general understanding of its condition. Impressive, indeed. Just hatched larvae had almost the strength of the first-grade later stages. After raising it for a few decades, it would have the strength of a 2nd-rank foundation establishment. Once it went through its first metamorphosis and grew its 2nd pair of wings, it would have 3rd-rank strength. Another 1,000 years of growth to sprout the 3rd pair of wings, and it would be at the peak of 4th rank, comparable to 5th rank. For a demon beast, this time frame is not long. But for Lu Chongqing, it was way too long. Pet beasts are of little use to me at my current stage. They can't directly enhance my strength. However, if these pet beasts can be cultivated and grow, they will all be formidable indeed, probably invincible at their respective ranks. Lu Chongqing sighed slightly, shaking his head. He then tried to sense the 6-winged golden silkworm before him. Just like with the 9 Netherhound and the peach blossom goo, he felt a connection with this 6-winged golden silkworm. But just as the system description said, this 6-winged golden silkworm was ferocious, not intelligent, and it was impossible to communicate properly. He could only transmit some simple commands. For example, to kill. If it weren't for the system having tamed it for me, this 6-winged golden silkworm would probably kill anyone it saw. For now, let's just raise it. If I can find the corresponding methods to control and tame insects, the growth of this 6-winged golden silkworm could be sped up quite a bit. Lu Chongqing thought to himself without lingering further. He then put the 6-winged golden silkworm into the spiritual pet bag that held the Lockhart goo. The Lockhart goo, which looked listless and as if it was on its last breath, suddenly became alert as if it was frightened by the 6-winged golden silkworm. Seeing this scene, Lu Chongsheng couldn't help but think of Meng Xiaochan. She was clearly proficient in the art of insect control. He wondered if she knew how to cultivate the six-winged golden silkworm. If there were corresponding cultivation methods, then its growth rate could be greatly increased. But Lu Chongsheng didn't ponder on it too much. His only connection to her was through the Lockhart goo. He had no idea where she had gone now. Moreover, for a rare magical insect like the six-winged golden silkworm, it was feared that cultivation methods were hard to come by. Jin Kingdom, the southern border mountains. In the bleak and wild swamps of the mountains, a girl in a purple dress commanded a swarm of insects to kill several snake demon beasts. After letting the swarm of insects and a blood-colored spider consume the bodies of the snake demon beasts, the girl continued on her way. When she emerged from the swamp and saw the peak shrouded in purple-black clouds, mysterious and towering into the clouds ahead, her face showed a look of surprise. Grandma said that my great-grandma was once the heaven spider emissary of the Five Poisons cult, one of the three great demon sects of the southern border of Jin Kingdom. The Five Poisons cult is skilled in the arts of goo poison and spiritual beasts. I have the 1,000 Poisons body and can hold great-grandma's token to join the Five Poisons cult. If only I hadn't lost the Lockhart goo with it, I might have been able to become the holy maiden of the Five Poisons cult. Chapter 263. Li Feiyu departs. The Lu family ancestor enters eternal rest. Meng Xiaochan looked at the spiritual vein mountain in front of her, feeling a sense of regret in her heart. The thought of the Lockhart goo caused a slight throb in her heart. She remembered that handsome young man with the upright figure. It said that the unique phoenix goo of the Five Poisons cult can cultivate the phoenix nirvana technique, which allows one to undergo a nirvana of fire, to be born and extinguished in the blink of an eye, washing away all the worldly impurities. I wonder if it could remove the effects of the Lockhart goo. This thought suddenly occurred to Meng Xiaochan. But as soon as the idea surfaced, her heart fluttered uneasily. She shook her head gently, dispersing the thought. Who goes there? In front of the towering mountain gate, two disciples in black stood watch. Seeing Meng Xiaochan, they stepped forward to inquire. The Five Poisons God Mountain was the domain of the Five Poisons sect. Naturally, not just anyone could approach freely. My name is Meng Xiaochan, a descendant of the heavenly spider envoy of the Five Poisons sect. Meng Xiaochan produced a token from her sleeve and handed it to one of the disciples. A descendant of the heavenly spider envoy? The two disciples examined the token, exchanging glances. One of them promptly said, "Fellow Taoist, please wait here, I shall go and report this." About the time it takes an incense stick to burn. A purple escape light shot down from the Five Poisons mountain, appearing before Meng Xiaochan in the blink of an eye. Disciple pays respect to the heavenly spider emissary. The remaining purple-clothed disciple rushed to bow and pay respects upon seeing the newcomer. So you are the descendant of my master. The newcomer was a 28 or 29-year-old woman in purple. Her face was stunningly beautiful and seductive, her skin as fair as snow, a pair of long, shapely legs, full and symmetrical, two crystal-clear feet, white throughout without a single flaw, like jade carvings. They seemed like pieces of art that one couldn't help but want to hold and carefully admire. Hers was a figure that seemed frail and slender in her sumptuous purple gauze, curvaceous in all the right spots yet appearing as if she couldn't withstand a strong wind, endlessly alluring. Her narrow, phoenix-like eyes were deep and dark, emanating a bizarre charm as she surveyed Meng Xiaochan before her. Beneath the corners of her phoenix eyes, a single tear mole added a pity-invoking allure to her already enchanting appearance. Junior greets senior. Meng Xiaochan respectfully nodded. She took some insect eggs from her storage bag, then released a blood-colored spider. Blood jade spider, it looks like you are indeed the master's descendant. The woman in purple slightly nodded. Her expression turned much softer as she said, "You've come to Five Poisons Mountain. Are you looking to join our Five Poisons sect?" "Yes, senior. I wish to join Five Poisons Mountain," Meng Xiaochan said respectfully. "Since you are the master's descendant, would you be willing to be my disciple?" The woman in purple looked at Meng Xiaochan, saying with a smile, "Xiaochan is willing." Meng Xiaochan responded immediately upon hearing this. "Good, from today on, you are now a disciple of Nangong Mili," Nangong Mili said with a light laugh. Afterward, Nangong Mili swept her sleeves and brought Meng Xiaochan into the Five Poisons Mountain. 10 days after Lu Miaohuan gave birth, the child in Lu Miage's belly was also born. It was a girl. This child also had a spiritual root. But it was only a 7th grade spiritual root. Since Lu Miaohuan's child had come first, it had raised Lu Changsheng's expectations. Seeing that the child only had a 7th grade spiritual root, there was a slight sense of disappointment in his heart. However, he immediately adjusted his mindset. After all, having a spiritual root was already quite impressive. How could everyone be exceptionally talented? This must be the result of good breeding, Lu Chongxing thought to himself. The fact that both Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan had given birth to children, although luck played a part, also showed that the higher the cultivation level of the parents, the higher the quality of the spiritual root, and thus the higher the probability of their children possessing spiritual roots. The quality of the spiritual root was also likely to be better. After Lu Miaoge gave birth, Lu Chongxing stayed in Qingzhou Mountain for 3 days before returning to Nine Dragons Market. Since both women had given birth, he had been on leave for a while, so it was not good to delay any further. Back in Nine Dragons Market, Lu Chongxing searched for some books about insects. He also purchased various spiritual materials to try and nourish the 6-winged golden silkworm, and pondered what to feed it. Blood. The 6-winged golden silkworm could consume blood, whether it was meat or vegetables. This made Lu Chongxing think to himself that the 6-winged golden silkworm was truly of a brutal nature. 2 months later, Lu Chongxing returned to the mundane world to visit his wives and children. That day, Li Feiyu also came to bid farewell to Lu Chongxing. He indicated that he was ready to leave Rui County City and wanted to make a name for himself in the cultivation world. "Feiyu, where do you plan to go for your cultivation journey?" Upon hearing this, Lu Chongxing asked. He had previously mentioned Red Leaf Valley Market and said it would be built and open in about half a year. But seeing Li Feiyu's demeanor, he clearly was not planning to go to Red Leaf Valley Market. Lu Chongxing had a rough understanding of his friend's thoughts. He knew Li Feiyu had his own pride and stubbornness. He did not want to rely on others for an easy life. Knowing that going to Red Leaf Valley Market, there would be little chance for encounters or achievements. "I haven't decided yet, but am planning to check out Azure Phoenix Immortal City," Li Feiyu said with a carefree and casual look. Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Lu Chongxing paused for a moment when he heard this. He certainly knew of Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Jiang Country had 3 great immortal cities. Zhouxiao Immortal City in the central part, the #1 immortal city in Jiang Country, with incredibly prosperous cultivator marketplaces. Great Dream Immortal City located at the northern border, backed by the Great Dream Marsh. This marsh was boundless, shrouded in mist all year round, blocking the divine sense of cultivators. It was said that even nascent soul immortals who entered would never come back. Therefore, no one knew what lay beyond the Great Dream Marsh. Some rumors said it was a forbidden land of absolute death. Others claimed it was an even vaster and more affluent cultivation world. Chapter 264. Li Feiyu departs. The Lu family ancestor passes away. The Azure Phoenix Immortal City is located on the southern border of Jiang Country, close to the Myriad Beasts mountain range, and borders Yu Country. Not only can one go to the mountain range to temper oneself and hunt demon beasts for money, but one can also go to Yu Country to interact with Yu Country cultivators. At ordinary times, many Yu Country cultivators gather in the Azure Phoenix Immortal City, which is considered a holy land for loose cultivators. Many loose cultivators who aspire to make a name for themselves will go to the Azure Phoenix Immortal City to take their chances. But likewise, such a place is incomparably dangerous. The level of danger is estimated to be tens of times that of the Nine Dragons Market. Every year, countless cultivators are buried in the wilderness, unknown. The cultivation world is so vast, one must see it. I heard the Azure Phoenix Immortal City is a holy land for loose cultivators, and as a loose cultivator myself, naturally I should go and see. I'm not saying I'll make something big out of it, but at least I'll witness the cultivation world. Li Feiyu said with a smirk. He had made inquiries about the Azure Phoenix Immortal City and naturally knew its dangers. But danger and opportunity coexist. For an ordinary loose cultivator, if one wishes to rise above others, this is the best place. Otherwise, with his 7th grade spiritual root, rolling in the secular world or small marketplaces, it would be difficult for him to achieve much in this lifetime. There's a year and a half left in our 10-year pact. Will you come then? Lu Chongqing inquired. Previously, Hong Yi had written to inquire of Xiao Xie, Zhao Qingqing, and Han Lin about the 10-year pact. All three had agreed, expressing that they would get together at that time. I'm not planning to head directly to the Azure Phoenix Immortal City, but instead to travel around first. After attending the pact, then I'll truly head to the Azure Phoenix Immortal City. Li Feiyu didn't hide his thoughts either. He knew the Azure Phoenix Immortal City was extremely dangerous, and he wouldn't just head there blindly. Although he had gained considerable understanding of the cultivation world over the years, he had not truly stepped into it. Most of his time was spent on Qingzhou Mountain, and his knowledge of the cultivation world wasn't direct enough. He planned to spend this next year and a half facing and adapting to the cruelty of the cultivation world. Chongqing, if I don't come back by then, please help take care of my home. Li Feiyu continued to speak. He had said this before, but now, just before leaving, he said it again. I've agreed to this, but I believe that situation will not arise. Lu Chongqing nodded slightly, without the mood for jokes. He took out a stack of talismans, a first-grade middle-grade puppet, 300 spirit stones, and a storage bag. Feiyu, take care of yourself. Keep these things for self-defense. When you return, well, drink and revel together. Lu Chongqing said this. Li Feiyu was his first friend in this world. He had even saved his life once. Now that the other was about to venture out for training experiences, one could imagine how hard and dangerous it would be. Naturally, he hoped his good brother would have smooth sailing. It's too precious. I can't accept it. Li Feiyu immediately shook his head when he saw the nearly 100 talismans, a puppet, and so many spirit stones. When he was in Qingzhou Mountain, relying on his own hard work, he could earn 5 or 6 spirit stones a month. Now in the secular world, by teaching Lu Changsheng's children and working with Hong Yi, he earned an average of about 10 spirit stones a month. What Lu Chongqing was offering was a considerable sum of money for him. If you still consider me a brother, then keep it. I can afford it now, and you will need some magic artifacts when you go out. Use these spirit stones to buy a few artifacts for self-defense. Lu Chongqing spoke with a solemn expression. Li Feiyu was only at the 4th level of his qi refinement, even though he had the strength of a martial Dao innate grandmaster. But against a cultivator in the energy refinement middle stage wielding magic artifacts, he could easily suffer. If he had talismans and magic artifacts by his side, he would be much safer. He didn't offer his own magic artifacts because, apart from the green-face sword and a few others, all were of high-grade or exquisite quality, which Li Feiyu couldn't utilize. Okay, I'll just owe you then. Li Feiyu, looking at Lu Changsheng's expression, took a deep breath and nodded earnestly. Then he said with a carefree attitude, Don't worry. Li Feiyu began adventuring through the world at the age of 12, traveling to all corners. It's not that easy for me to stumble and fall. Just to repay this debt, I will also make sure to live well. Li Feiyu said this. Subsequently, the two chatted for a long time. More than a decade of cultivation life had many memories worth reflecting upon, especially since this might be the last time the two of them talked. The next day, Li Feiyu called Hong Yi over, and the three of them had a meal together before parting ways. At the moment of departure, Hong Yi also presented a lower-grade flying sword to Li Feiyu, advising him to take good care of himself. Sigh. Lu Chongqing watched Li Feiyu's retreating figure and sighed deeply. His heart was laden with the heavy feeling associated with lives' separations and death's finality. With the talisman and puppet by his side and relying on Feiyu's own strength and means, he should be able to fight against cultivators at the energy refinement late stage, or at least escape. Moreover, in the cultivation world, anything can happen. From cliff diving to find treasures to accidentally entering the secret realm of an ancient cultivator's cave. Who knows, Feiyu might just stumble upon an opportunity. Lu Chongqing consoled himself in his heart. He didn't indulge too much in sorrow or sentimentality. He discussed with Hong Yi about the Red Leaf Valley Market. It would be almost half a year before it would be completed and open. He had already alerted the Lu family about the matter of the market's entry spots. However, as for the shops, only ordinary ones with mediocre locations were available to them. The desirable shop locations had been mostly retained by the 4 major families or allocated to other powers. Lu Chongqing learned that to establish the Red Leaf Valley Market, the Lu, Bai Yu, and Zheng families had all invested a great deal of thought and energy. Not only had they made expenditures to appease Qingyun's sect, but they had also semi-gifted some shops and cave dwellings to certain powers. To this, Hong Yi minded not the slightest, because for the better shops, the Rui Marquis mansion lacked enough spirit stones and simply couldn't afford them. If it weren't for the light cast by Lu Chongqing, they might not have even secured such an ordinary shop. In the blink of an eye, another 2 months had passed. On this day, the second elder sought out Lu Chongqing and informed him that he must immediately return to the family. The Lu family ancestor had passed away. The ancestor has passed away. In the past, Lu Chongqing had seen hints of the deathly aura upon the Lu family ancestor and knew his end was near. But he hadn't expected it to come so swiftly, so suddenly. Recalling how just a year ago this elder had presided over his wedding, he couldn't help but feel emotional. The ancestor had always hoped to see the Red Leaf Valley Market completed, to take a good look at it. But sadly, he didn't make it to that day. The second elder said with a sad expression. Those high within the Lu family ranks understood the Lu family ancestor's health more acutely than Lu Chongqing. After the great battle at Red Leaf Valley, the Lu family ancestor knew his days were numbered and had started making arrangements for after his demise. His only lingering regret was his wish to see the Red Leaf Valley Market. Yet in the end, the Lu family ancestor did not live to see that day. Soon after, Lu Chongqing followed the second elder and several Lu family disciples back to Qingzhou Mountain. The Lu family disciples gradually returned to Qingzhou Mountain. All over the mountain, everyone's mood was somber with sorrow. Cultivation families are maintained through the bonds of blood and kinship. All of the family disciples, from a young age nurtured by the family, practicing cultivation, marrying, bearing children, spreading branches and leaves, all on this land. And the Lu family ancestor was the sky within the hearts of all Lu family disciples. Now, with the ancestor's passing, it was natural for all to be engulfed in profound grief. Several days later, in the Lu family ancestral hall, alas! The ancestor lived a life of diligence, dedicated to our family. Now that his soul has returned to the heavens and earth, we the younger generations of the Lu family are filled with inconsolable sorrow. Lu Yuanding mourned with a face full of grief. He spoke of the Lu family ancestor's contributions and merits to the family. After the eulogy was delivered, Lu Yuanzhong stepped forward. He escorted the Lu family ancestor's spirit tablet into the ancestral hall, then lit 3 sticks of incense, and bowed solemnly. He announced loudly, Lu Yuanzhong of the Lu family bids farewell to the ancestor as his soul returns to the heavens and earth. The Lu family disciples bid farewell to the ancestor as his soul returns to the heavens and earth. The Lu family disciples bid farewell to the ancestor as his soul returns to the heavens and earth. The Lu family disciples bid farewell to the ancestor as his soul returns to the heavens and earth. At this moment, all the Lu family disciples together echoed the call, bowing in salute. This must be the transmission of the family bloodline, right? Compared to the loose cultivators who are like duckweed in the wind, the Lu family ancestor was able to pass away at home and be buried in the family spirit land. His spirit tablet placed in the ancestral hall with his life's achievements recorded in the family records. His life can be considered fulfilled. After all, not all cultivators can live long and prosperous lives. It is through this manner that one's bloodline, one's spirit, continues to be passed down and endure. Lu Chongqing also bowed and chanted along. His emotions stirred. He began to understand why family ties in this world were so deep. On one hand, it's maintained by the bonds of blood and kinship. On the other, it's about how one is irrevocably bound to the family from the moment of birth, bound for life. Within the entire family, everyone is striving for a shared goal, a common belief. Chapter 265. Uncle returned. One cultivators care less about the trivial formalities of the secular world. After worshipping the spirit tablet of the Lu family ancestor, the ceremony is considered over once everyone has offered 3 sticks of incense. The crowd gradually dispersed. Just as Lu Chongqing was about to leave, Lu Yuanding, the newly advanced ancestor, called out to him. Chongqing, how is your cultivation progressing? Lu Yuanzhong had a scholarly appearance, bearing some resemblance to Lu Yuanding. Lu Chongqing also knew that this ancestor Yuanzhong was indeed the blood brother of his father-in-law, Lu Yuanding. Therefore, he should address this ancestor as uncle father-in-law. However, in cultivation families like Qingzhou Mountain, as soon as one succeeds in foundation establishment, their generational status automatically rises to that of an ancestor. Reporting to ancestor, I am currently at the 6th level of Qi refinement, and I estimate it will take 3 more years to reach the peak of the 6th level, Lu Chongqing replied. That was what Lu Chongqing said, having declared 2 years earlier that he was at the 6th level of Qi refinement and naturally not daring to overstate his progress. Very good, Lu Yuanzhong commented with a slight nod after hearing this. After giving Lu Chongqing a few appraising looks, he took out a jade scroll. I've heard that you have been cultivating the Changchun technique, and this greenwood art is a high-grade cultivation technique treasured by our Lu family. You should take it and cultivate it, Yuanding said. If there's anything you don't understand, you can also ask Yuanding. He cultivates this greenwood art as well, Yuanzhong added. Lu Chongqing was somewhat surprised to hear this. He had not expected Lu Yuanzhong to stop him just to give him a cultivation technique. Having been busy in Red Leaf Valley Market over the past year, Lu Chongqing had rarely interacted with the newly advanced ancestor. They had only met briefly a couple of times. He hadn't expected that immediately following the death of the Lu family ancestor, the latter would express goodwill toward him. Thank you very much, ancestor. Lu Chongqing immediately expressed his gratitude with respect. Although he already possessed the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture and did not need this greenwood art, it was nevertheless a gesture of kindness. After all, to his knowledge, the highest level techniques treasured by the Lu family were a few high-grade cultivation techniques. Now that they're willing to pass on one to him, they have effectively accepted him as one of their own. Remember, this technique is for your cultivation only and must not be passed on, Lu Yuanding cautioned. Ancestor, please rest assured, Chongqing understands. Lu Chongqing nodded and replied. Having spent so many years in Nine Dragons Market, he had come to understand why the inheritance of techniques in the cultivation world is so scarce and precious. These inheritances originate from immortal sects, families, or loose cultivators. Immortal sects, as the primary suppliers, prohibit the sale of high-grade cultivation techniques and skill inheritances within their territories to continuously harvest excellent disciples and affordable labor. This is why they are forbidden from selling advanced methods. And why would any cultivation family want to sell the very foundation that sustains them? They prefer to abide by this rule, preventing leakages of such inheritances and partaking in the benefits. Loose cultivators are no different. It's improbable for them to selflessly risk censure by selling high-grade techniques. Most choose to deal privately instead. Thus, most loose cultivators who wish to obtain higher-order techniques or inheritances are either reliant on fortunate encounters or, should they possess a decent talent, join a cultivation family or a faction under an immortal sect. This has become an unwritten rule in the cultivation world. Primary-level techniques and first-grade skill inheritances are commonplace and can be purchased with a few spirit stones. But if one wishes to advance further without fortune, they must find a way to join a power and be exploited. This is why the third young master of the Yu family once offered high-grade techniques and insights into foundation establishment to tempt Lu Chongqing. "All right, you may go about your business now," said Lu Yunzhong, patting Lu Chongqing on the shoulder without much else to add. "Yes, ancestor," Lu Chongqing replied, bowing slightly before taking his leave. Lu Chongqing, Lu Yuanzhong muttered the name to himself as he watched Changsheng's retreating figure, recalling the last wish of the Lu family ancestor and the value he had placed on Chongqing. He exhaled softly. 3 days later, the second elder informed Lu Chongqing to return to Nine Dragons Market. "Chongqing, do you want me to look after the spiritual talisman shop?" Lu Miaoge asked, holding her daughter, Lu Qingzhu, and speaking softly. Having recovered from childbirth, she was ready to take on some of Lu Changsheng's burdens. "No need, Sister Miaoge. You should stay at home and cultivate and learn talisman making with Grandma. If you go to the marketplace, it will distract you and hinder your cultivation. Besides, Qingzhu is still small and needs your care," Lu Chongqing said, pinching his daughter's chubby cheek with a smile. Lu Miaoge's talisman-making skill was currently transitioning from an upper-grade talisman master to a top-level talisman master. Therefore, he did not want his wife to run back and forth between two places and be overburdened. "All right," Lu Miaoge replied with a tender smile. Having become a mother, her clear and ethereal countenance was now often adorned with a gentle and maternal smile. She continued, "Chongshang, the Red Leaf Valley Market will open in a few months. The family plans to open a talisman shop there, and they want me to oversee and manage it. If you find Nine Dragons Market too far, I can go there, and you can take my place in Red Leaf Valley Market," she suggested. Despite being a wife, her disposition remained as gentle as water, nurturing and almost motherly kindness. "Sister Miaoge, the Lu family ancestor had given me a shop in Red Leaf Valley, and am planning to set up a talisman shop there. So for Nine Dragons Market, I intend to let Grandma find someone to manage it," Lu Chongqing said, pondering slightly. The Lu family ancestor had rewarded him with a shop and a cave dwelling in Red Leaf Valley Market. Now that the market was about to open, Lu Chongqing did not want to simply rent out the shop and dwelling. He was thinking of establishing another talisman shop there. Chapter 266. Uncle returned. After all, Red Leaf Valley Market just opened, and it's a great time to seize market share. Now that the kids are getting older, in a few years they will start cultivation one after another. And then the expenses will increase significantly. If we have a talisman shop, that would mean another stable source of income. Open a spiritual talisman shop? Lu Miaoge paused slightly when she heard this, then nodded and said, "That's doable. With your talisman-making skill, you're already capable of opening your own shop. However, about this matter, you need to give fourth grandma a heads up." Not long ago, Lu Chongqing had taken his talisman skills up a notch, demonstrating the prowess of a first-grade top-level talisman master. With such a level of skill, coupled with the Lu family's supply channels, sustaining a talisman shop should be no issue. I've already mentioned this to Grandma and plan to talk to her about it more later. "All right, second elder is still waiting for me. Sister Miaoge, I'll head over now," Lu Chongqing said. He didn't linger to talk more with Lu Miaoge. After kissing his daughter and wife on their cheeks, he waved his hand and took off. Arriving at the entrance of Qingzhu Mountain, he boarded the second elder's spirit boat and set off for Nine Dragons Market. 2 days later, Lu Chongqing returned to Nine Dragons Market. As soon as he arrived home, Xia Zhiyue joyfully brought him good news. "Husband, I think I'm pregnant." 2 months ago, she had broken through from the 3rd-level qi refinement to the 4th level. After Xia Zhiyue reached the 4th-level qi refinement and expressed her willingness, Lu Chongqing didn't practice contraception anymore. But whether it was bad luck or due to her spirit-nurturing physique, it took so long for Xia Zhiyue to conceive. "You're pregnant, let me see?" Lu Chongqing smiled when he heard the news, placing his head against Xia Ziyu's lower abdomen. He immediately confirmed that she was indeed pregnant. "Zhiyue, You should rest and take good care of yourself at home from now on. Lu Chongqing gently stroked her smooth black hair and spoke softly. Even though Xia Zhiyue only had a 7th-grade spiritual root, her spirit-nurturing physique made him quite expectant of their child. He could feel his own spiritual root was almost at the juncture between 6th and 5th grade. Having another child with a 6th-grade spiritual root should promote his own from 6th to 5th grade. If they were to have a child with a 4th-grade spiritual root like Xia Zhaoyang, that would be a direct leap to success. Yes, of course. Xia Zhiyue nodded obediently, thinking about the plan to open a spiritual talisman shop in Red Leaf Valley Market. I will mostly stay out of the shop's affairs. In terms of salary, it will be increased by 50% based on your current rate, and additionally, in Red Leaf Valley Market, I have a 2nd-order cave mansion with a spirit vein, which I can rent to you at a base price. This will also greatly improve your and Zioya's cultivation, Lu Chongqing continued. Since he was looking to recruit someone, he had to offer a price that was enticing enough. Otherwise, why would someone agree to work for him? With you putting it this way, Brother Lu, I don't have any reason to refuse, Gao he said with a beaming smile that made his face even more prosperous. Just the 50% increase in salary was tempting to him. Adding on the 2nd-order cave mansion, he had no reason to refuse at all. For ordinary loose cultivators, aside from joining a force, they generally had no means of securing a 2nd-order mansion. Chapter 267. Uncle returned. All right, let's settle it like this. The Red Leaf Valley Market will be open in a few more months, and he'll notify Gao He then. Seeing the other party agree, Lu Chongqing also nodded. Okay, no problem. Gao He nodded in agreement. Gao He, how are you doing with superior grade talismans now? Lu Chongqing inquired. Gao He had also become a superior grade talisman master, but the specifics he wasn't too clear on. Although he had chatted with Gao He about talismans over the years, it was not exactly frequent. I have about a 50% success rate with golden light barrier talismans. As for nectar talismans, only a 30% success rate, and for escape talismans, merely 10%. Gao He shook his head and sighed. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing immediately spoke out, discussing and offering guidance to Gao He about talismans. After all, the man was considered his own family's resident talisman master. So, spending some time guiding him was not a big deal. Additionally, by doing this, it allowed Gao He to serve him better. 3 months flew by in a blink. During this time, the 4th elder also learned of Lu Changsheng's intention to open a talisman shop in Red Leaf Valley. She didn't say much about it, but instead supported Lu Changsheng's idea. After all, with his talisman-making skill, it would indeed be a pity to rent out the shop. She soon arranged for another talisman master to preside over the spiritual talisman shop in 9 Dragons Market. This allowed Lu Chongqing to stop going there and return to Qingzhou Mountain to rest. Qingzhou Valley, inside the practice room, Lu Chongqing sat cross-legged with hands positioned towards the heavens, cultivating. 7 sharp sword chi swirled around him gracefully, making his skin feel cold. Huff! It's almost 3 to 4 months away from the 9th level energy refinement. Lu Chongqing exhaled lightly, concluding today's routine cultivation. He could clearly feel that his spiritual power was likely to reach perfection in a few months, at which point he could challenge the 9th level energy refinement. For him, advancing from the 8th to the 9th level was not an issue. The process was as natural as the flow of water. Leaving the practice room, Lu Chongqing went to his study to draw talismans as usual. After creating 1 supreme talisman and 2 superior grade talismans, Lu Chongqing went to the courtyard to spend time with his wives and children. Lu Qingshan and Lu Qingzhu could now walk. Lu Qingshan, while possessing a spiritual body, seemed no different from any normal child. If anything, he was just more lively and active. This made Lu Chongqing secretly wonder if his son would inherit his mother's personality as he grew up. If he were to become like the second miss in temperament, he would probably bring a fair amount of trouble for his father. At that moment, Lu Chongqing received a message. The Red Leaf Valley Market was going to open in 10 days. 10 days. Upon hearing this message, Lu Chongqing nodded slightly. He sent letters to inform Hong Yi and Gao He about the news. He planned to go there once the Red Leaf Market opened. Although the marketplace would not attract many cultivators when it just opened, and it would need some time before the traffic picked up, opening a shop required advance arrangement and preparation. Upon a solemn, hallowed, and eerie high platform. Hoo. The platform was surrounded by golden flagpoles. The black flags flying from the poles were embroidered with various vivid and lifelike demons. Now, the flags flapped loudly, turning into billowing demonic chi, which caused visions of terrifying demons to emerge. At that moment, the white-haired young man sitting cross-legged on the platform suddenly opened his stunning eyes. They were dark and profound, with a crescent lotus pattern surfacing at his brow. The crescent lotus was blood-red, exuding an evil charm, and wrapped him in a powerful and boundless aura, like a ferocious tiger or dragon. Ketsukidu, Same, Prajnaparamita Same, Ketsukidu Prajnaparamita Same. The white-haired young man abruptly voiced a deep and mysterious chant. The low, resonating sound summoned a blood-colored figure with 3 heads and 6 arms behind him to slowly take shape. This blood-colored figure also seemed to chant, causing the voice to grow increasingly eerie and tremendous. It sounded as if countless voices blended together, causing the platform to tremble continuously as the flag's demons submitted to the blood figure with 3 heads and 6 arms. Not bad, befitting my disciple. You have not disappointed me. As he spoke, a youth in a black robe, with aged eyes and a sinisterly handsome face, appeared on the platform. He looked down at the white-haired young man, smiling satisfactorily as he clapped his hands. You once promised me that if I were to establish the Demon Dao Foundation, you would let me return once. Chu Chang'e looked toward the youth before him with a detached expression, his voice somewhat husky. As your master, I will not break my promise. The black-robed youth laughed softly, then called out, Hey Chiu! After a short while, a surge of chi that resembled a black serpent came rolling in. It transformed into a muscular man in black armor, his body covered in black demonic patterns, his features deep with evil intent. He Chiu pays his respects to the ancestor master. The bald man's demonic patterns seemed to move like little serpents, imposing a terrifying sensation. However, upon seeing the black-robed youth, he knelt down with a devout salute as if on a pilgrimage. You will accompany the young master to Jiang country. The black-robed youth stated indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure gradually faded away into nothingness. Young master, when do you plan to embark for Jiang country? The bald man, seeing the youth vanish, immediately turned to Chu Chang'e on the platform, an ingratiating smile spreading across his face. At odds with his ghastly appearance, the smile created a jarring contrast. Jiang country. Chu Chang'e paused slightly, his eyes flickering with an unusual light. His husky voice then declared, Now. He had originally thought that Lu Chongqing invited him to Red Leaf Valley Market to act as the resident talisman master on behalf of the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain. To his surprise, Lu Chongqing had opened his own shop. This left him both astonished and envious. Many loose cultivators spend their entire lives in the cultivation world and still may not be able to afford a residence in a marketplace. Most can only choose to return to the secular world to settle down. Even for him, an advanced-level talisman master, buying property in a larger market wasn't easy. A shop like Lu Changsheng's could support 3 generations if Red Leaf Market didn't run into trouble, and that wasn't an exaggeration. Heh, that's right, the Lu family also has a shop here, Lu Chongqing chuckled. However, this shop isn't owned by the Lus. It's my personal business. Therefore, I won't have much time to manage it, which is why I requested your assistance. He continued, not hiding the truth. He planned to spend his time cultivating in Qingzhou Mountain like the 4th elder, accompanying his wife and children. After completing the talisman-making tasks for the Lu family each month and supplying the spiritual talisman shop, he would come to check on the shop and see Lu Miaoge. "All right, rest assured, boss," Gao He said without further questions, giving a respectful bow. After taking a look at the shop and glancing at Lu Chongqing, he added, "But this shop needs a name. Why don't you choose one, boss? Since it sells talismans, let's just call it Peace Talisman Hall," Lu Chongqing suggested after some thought, coming up with a rather uninspired name. Gao He's mouth twitched slightly. Such shop names were basically cliché. But that's how it was for most shops except for some major families and powers. They could only build a reputation by slowly accumulating good reviews and growing the business. Subsequently, Gao He discussed the initial preparations for the Spirit Talisman shop with Lu Chongqing. Having been briefed on this by Lu Chongqing, he had made ready preparations. Lu Chongqing knew that Gao He had put in the effort when he heard this. He had even thought that if it didn't work out, he could ask the Lu family for support. After all, it would be foolish not to use resources that were readily available. Suddenly, Lu Chongqing also discussed the second-order cave mansion with Gao He. He had seen the mansion. It wasn't big, just 100 square meters. But for rent, it could fetch 80 to 90 spirit stones a year. Once the foot traffic increased, he estimated it could be rented out for 100 spirit stones. Lu Chongqing then rented it to Gao He for a base price of 80 spirit stones per year. "Thank you, boss." Gao He gratefully accepted the offer. He planned to clear a path in the Nine Dragons market and, at the same time, bring over his daughter, Gao Xiaoya. After chatting for a while, Lu Chongqing left and went to the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. This shop's layout and decorations were similar to those in the Nine Dragons Market's Lu family spiritual talisman shop, only larger. "Chongqing, you finished your business?" Lu Miaoge came forward as soon as she knew Lu Chongqing had arrived. Apart from being at home, she still maintained a sense of grace and inaccessibility when outside. "Yes, I finished," Lu Chongqing said, nodding with a smile. He shared the details of his discussion with Gao He with Lu Miaoge. This is what being husband and wife was like. It wasn't every day that there were fresh and interesting stories to share. Often, much of the time was spent talking about the little things happening around them. The night deepened. Red Leaf Valley was already quiet, now enveloped in silence. Apart from the guards tasked with patrolling, most had entered the realm of dreams. On the third floor of the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. Inside the simple bedroom, the bed's curtains hung down. The candlelight flickered gently, as if a full moon had sunk into the water, waves gently lapping. After the deed, "Sister Miaoge, how long do you need to break through to the 9th level of energy refinement?" Chapter 269. Advanced Draw, Heavenly Spiritual Treasure. Lu Chongqing embraced the warm, soft jade and asked softly, due to the previous assassination attempt and because of her pregnancy and childbirth, Lu Miaoge had only broken through to the 8th level of energy refinement 3 months ago. It should take about 5 or 6 years. Lu Miaoge was still immersed in the afterglow of her cultivation session. Her cheeks flushed with a beauty that seemed beyond compare. 5 to 6 years. Lu Chongqing heard this and nodded slightly. He understood that at Lu Miaoge's current pace of cultivation, waiting for her to reach perfection in energy refinement and then to attempt foundation establishment would likely take more than a decade. In more than 10 years, by then, maybe I could get a genuine foundation establishment elixir. Moreover, after I reach foundation establishment, I can consider passing on the split sword technique, Lu Chongqing thought to himself. Now that Lu Miaoge was his wife, the mother of his children, he naturally paid more attention to her cultivation and foundation establishment. "It's nothing, I was just asking. I want to help you with your cultivation, to reach foundation establishment sooner," Lu Chongqing whispered to the beauty before him. Then, capturing her tender lips, they continued their cultivation. Among all his wives and concubines, only Lu Miaoge, who was also at the 8th level of energy refinement, produced the best results when dual cultivating with him. A single session of dual cultivation was almost equivalent to half a month of solitary cultivation. Lu Miaoge's cheeks were flushed, her brows gently curved, her eyes gleaming like water, her teeth biting down on her cherry lips. After spending half a month with Lu Miaoge in Red Leaf Valley Market, Lu Chongsheng returned to Qingzhou Mountain. The distance between Red Leaf Valley and Qingzhou Mountain made his travels much more convenient. On the third day after returning to Qingzhou Mountain, the maid Zhang Luiyue gave birth to a child. This child did not possess a spiritual root, but at the moment of the child's birth, a system prompt arrived as expected. Congratulations, host. The number of your offspring has reached 100. You are awarded one advanced lottery draw. Advanced lottery? Lu Chongxing raised his eyebrows upon hearing this. Previously, when he had 50 children, he received a designated draw, which allowed him to choose any category for the draw. He hadn't expected that reaching 100 children would warrant an advanced lottery draw. If the regular lottery is this powerful, won't the advanced lottery skyrocket? At this moment, Lu Chongxing couldn't help but feel excited and anticipatory. He immediately rushed to his study to start the lottery draw. System, I want to draw the lottery, Lu Chongxing thought to himself. Instantly, a deep red virtual lottery wheel appeared. It was different from the previous lottery wheels. This wheel had only 4 sections: Cultivation Technique Classics, Elixirs, Heaven and Earth Treasures, and Spiritual Pet Treasures. The regular lottery can draw orthodox-level cultivation techniques. Could the Cultivation Technique Classics drawn from the advanced lottery be above the orthodox level? And if the pets from the regular lottery are heavenly-grade bloodline pets, wouldn't the advanced lottery possibly give true spirit beast cubs? Lu Chongxing looked at the advanced lottery wheel in front of him and couldn't help but look forward to it. That feeling of anxious anticipation for the lottery had arisen again. Curious about what reward he would receive this time. System, draw the lottery. Lu Chongxing didn't think too much, took a deep breath, and slowly exhaled. With a mental shift, the brilliant gold light appeared on the advanced lottery wheel and began to spin rapidly. After 5 seconds, the light gradually slowed. Finally, with Lu Changsheng's heart pounding, the gold light settled on the spiritual pet treasure section. Ding! Congratulations, host, for obtaining a heavenly spiritual treasure. 9 treasure jade rui. The reward has been distributed to the system space. The host can check it at any time. A green rui image, inlaid with what looked like 9 stars, emerged from the lottery wheel accompanied by a system notification tone. Heavenly spiritual treasure? 9 treasure jade rui? Lu Chongxing, seeing the reward he obtained, was immediately delighted. He hadn't imagined that he would draw a heavenly spiritual treasure. The treasures used by cultivators are categorized from low to high as magic artifact, spiritual artifact, magical treasure, spiritual treasure, and heavenly spiritual treasure. Heavenly spiritual treasure, the supreme treasure that only nascent divine cultivators could wield and use. It was rumored that treasures of this level had their own artifact spirits, with autonomous consciousness and the ability to think. Unexpectedly, through the advanced lottery, he had drawn a treasure of this level. If a heavenly spiritual treasure has an artifact spirit, it should automatically bond with its master just like a pet does. I wonder if the grand old artifact spirit can give me a boost, Lu Chongxing thought hopefully to himself. Then he turned his attention to the heavenly spiritual treasure in the system space. Spiritual treasure, 9 treasure jade rui grade. Heavenly spiritual treasure, description. Before the demise of the divine lord of 9 heavens, he gathered the essence of all heavenly stars, infused it into the myriad spirits jade, and finally refined it with his 9 great divine abilities. It contains 9 great divine abilities, mysterious and unfathomable, and possesses immense power. Only a person with great magical power can activate it. So the grade is just heavenly spiritual treasure, without detailed grades? Lu Chongxing looked at the information of the treasure and felt surprised. This made him recall something he read in an ancient tome. A heavenly spiritual treasure is fundamentally superior to even the finest of the supreme spiritual treasures. Therefore, it is beyond the categorizations of low, middle, high, and supreme. Regardless of whether it's categorized or not, the 4 words heavenly spiritual treasure are enough. Lu Chongxing didn't dwell too much on this point. With a mental spirit, he extracted the heavenly spiritual treasure from the system space. Immediately, a beautifully crafted, glossy jade ruby about the size of a baby's arm appeared. The glossy jade ruby shimmered with light, glimmering like galaxies flowing, beauty beyond words. 9 stars of crimson, blood red, golden yellow, sky blue, deep blue, purple, black, dark black, and pure white were inlaid on it, so exquisite that they seemed to emit their own profound mysteries. Chapter 268. Advanced Draw, Heavenly Spiritual Treasure. HM? No artifact spirit? Having just extracted the 9 treasure jade ruby, Lu Chongqing had already gleaned a basic understanding of the information about this high-level spiritual treasure. This high-level spiritual treasure was indeed formidable. The 9 treasure jade ruby contained 9 great divine abilities, known as the 9 treasures. The first treasure enhanced one's physical strength. The second treasure amplified mana and divine skills. The third treasure boosted the soul and divine sense. The fourth treasure increased speed, enabling one to ride the wind with incredible swiftness. The fifth treasure held healing divine light, repairing the physical body and treating the primordial spirit. The sixth treasure was protective divine light, shielding one from all methods of attack with its divine light. The seventh treasure was sealing divine light, capable of sealing another's mana or one's own aura. The eighth treasure was unsealing divine light, able to break through all sorts of formations and restrictions with a sweep of its light. The ninth treasure was 9-colored disaster light, capable of obliterating everything on its path. As for the first 4 enhancements like vigor, mana, soul, and speed, they could be amplified up to 10 times. While the fifth treasure's healing power could not bring the dead back to life, as long as there was a breath of life, it could generally save and prolong one's life. It could even consume one's origin source to instantly recover from all injuries. With just these effects, the 9 treasure jade ruby could be considered a truly precious treasure. Not to mention the latter 4 divine lights, each an unparalleled divine skill. However, this high-level spiritual treasure did not possess an artifact spirit, as Lu Chongqing had imagined. According to the system introduction, this high-level spiritual treasure was at the stage where it had just been refined by the God of the 9 heavens, still yet to pass through the heavenly tribulation and nourish an artifact spirit to form an autonomous consciousness. If one had to categorize it, it could only be considered as an almost high-level spiritual treasure. Without an artifact spirit, this high-level spiritual treasure is just a powerful magical treasure to me. Lu Chongqing shook his head and said, it was not too disappointing for him. After all, the system's rewards were too advanced for him at this point, incapable of being transformed into strength quickly. This 9 treasure jade ruby was just even more advanced. To him, its essence was about the same as the black dragon magical bead. Luckily, I have the 100 refinements treasure body art. Otherwise, having such a heavy treasure, I could only watch and let it gather dust. Lu Chongqing let out a breath. He possessed the 100 refinements treasure body art. With this art, he could utilize any magical treasure or spiritual treasure for cultivation, incorporating them into his body to enhance the speed of his 100 refinements treasure body art's cultivation. With the aid of the middle-grade black dragon magical bead, his treasure body technique advanced with incredible speed. In about another year, he could break through to the 3rd level. If he refined a high-level spiritual treasure into his body, his 100 refinements treasure body art's cultivation speed would likely skyrocket. Moreover, once the treasure body technique is cultivated to the 5th level, the treasure bone technique can melt the magical treasure into a life-bound treasure bone. Once a life-bound treasure bone is formed, one can wield the magical treasure's divine effects without the need for the black dragon magical bead's origin nurturing, unlike talisman treasures that have limited power and need to be nurtured again after each use. If I were to melt this 9 treasure jade ruby into a life-bound treasure bone, then I'd command the 9 great divine abilities of the 9 treasure jade ruby. At this moment, Lu Chongqing murmured in his heart, thinking about the treasure bone technique in the 100 refinements treasure body art. The current treasure bone technique could only consume a magical treasure's origin to nurture the bones. thereby exerting part of the magical treasure's power, but each time the power was drained, it would need to be nurtured again. But once the 100 Refinements treasure body art was cultivated to the 5th level, and the physical body comparable to a spiritual artifact, he could then melt a magical treasure or spiritual treasure with the skull, sternum, spine, and limbs, the 7 treasure bones, into a life-bound treasure bone. Once the life-bound treasure bone was formed, the magical treasure and treasure bone would meld into one. From then on, the magical treasure's divine effects would become the cultivator's life-bound divine abilities, innate divine abilities. With the system by his side, ordinary magical treasures, which had average power and limited potential, Lu Chongqing was not too willing to melt them into life-bound treasure bones. Because once a magical treasure is cultivated into a life-bound treasure bone, that particular life-bound treasure bone can no longer assist in cultivation, nor can it refine other magical treasures into the body. Therefore, one must be extremely cautious with the 7 life-bound treasure bones of the treasure body technique. Otherwise, if one casually melds 7 life-bound treasure bones, and can no longer refine magical treasures to assist in cultivation in the future, then the 100 Refinements treasure body technique would become practically useless for Lu Chongqing. But this 9 treasure jade rui was different. Its grade was that of a high-level spiritual treasure, with an extremely high potential, and contained 9 great divine abilities. Once he mastered these 9 divine abilities, his strength would receive a comprehensive boost. It's absolutely worth melting it into a life-bound treasure bone. However, my 100 Refinements treasure body art is only at the 2nd level. Even with the help of magical treasures for cultivation, it will take a long time to break through to the 5th level. Lu Chongqing shook his head and exhaled a long breath, not thinking about such long-term matters. Soon after, he sat cross-legged, wanting to see how long it would take for the 100 Refinements treasure body art to refine this high-level spiritual treasure. Even the creators of this cultivation technique from 100 Creation Mountain had never tried to use the Qi refinement realm to refine a high-level spiritual treasure. Having magical treasures refined into the body at the Qi refinement realm, which could then be used to assist in cultivation, was already remarkable. How could a high-level spiritual treasure possibly be used for such refinement? In Zhoushan Mansion City, Chu Chang'e walked through the city. He was dressed in a black wide-sleeved robe. His normally white hair had been dyed black and was held up with a hairpin. With a stern face that, besides seeming quiet and reticent, didn't appear much different from an ordinary person. But he was followed by a tall and muscular bald man in black attire. The bald man radiated a compelling majesty, inspiring fear and trembling in those who looked upon him, deterring anyone from getting too close. Chu Chang'e stopped walking, staring at the dazzling facade of the Chu residence in front of him, taken aback and showing a look of astonishment. Chapter 269. Advanced Draw, Heavenly Spiritual Treasure. For he clearly remembered that the last time he returned home, his house was desolate and dilapidated, overgrown with weeds. How had it now returned to the appearance he remembered in his memories? Could it be the scene I saw before? Was it all an illusion? In fact, my parents, they might not be dead. Chu Chang's heart skipped a beat. The heart that had long been deadened was now roiling with emotion, and tears almost spilled out. But he didn't step forward to knock on the door. With his foundation establishment cultivation, he was able to clearly sense that within the residence, there was only one elderly person. There were no other signs of life. So he knew that the derelict state of the Chu residence he had seen before was not any illusion. The residence before his eyes must have been rebuilt for some reason. At this moment, the elder inside the Chu residence, seeing Chu Chang'e standing at the door, couldn't help but ask, "Young sir, do you need something?" "I thought the Chu residence had been raided by bandits." After a moment of silence, Chu Chang'e replied with a somewhat hoarse voice, "Yes, the Chu family, I don't know what sins we had committed. 10 years ago we were raided by bandits, and the courtyard was left desolate. But then last year," the elder spoke with a hint of melancholy. The old man was of an advanced age, rambling on, but he helped Chu Chang'e understand the situation. He learned that a man and a woman had come to erect a tombstone for his parents and had renovated the residence. Zhenjin is still alive. Chu Chang'e immediately knew that the woman the elder spoke of was his sister, Chu Zhenjin. Knowing that his sister was still alive, his body couldn't help but tremble. But he soon calmed down again, nodded, and left with the bald man. They had not gone far before the two transformed into an escape light, concealing their forms and entering the courtyard of the Chu residence. Looking at the courtyard, which closely resembled the one from his past yet lacked the vibrancy of life, Chu Chang'e seemed somewhat bewildered as he walked around. Then, in the back courtyard, he saw the tombstones and spirit hall. Father, Chu Qingsong, Mother Zhao's tomb. Son-in-law, Lu Chongsheng. Daughter Chu Zhenjin in tribute. Zhenjin is married? Chu Chang'e looked at the tombstone before him. The image of his sister, Chu Zhenjin, as he remembered her, surfaced in his mind. Knowing that his sister was still alive and now married, he felt joy and relief but also a complex mix of emotions. Time really does fly. It's good that she's married. With Zhenjin's temperament, it would be difficult for her to be alone. I wonder how Zhenjin is doing these days. Chu Chang'e stared at the tombstone before him, lost in thought, his expression extremely complex. Young master, if you have living relatives you wish to see, I have a secret technique that can trace them through your bloodline, said the man in black armor next to him, attempting to please him. His obsequious demeanor instantly swept away any semblance of his authoritative presence. Forget it. Given my current situation, it's better not to disturb her life, Chu Chang'e said, gently shaking his head. He was acutely aware that he had embarked on a perilous path, one far different from that of ordinary people. If he were to visit his sister, it might disrupt her life. Moreover, he couldn't stay for long on this visit back home. Chu Chang'e then knelt before the tombstone, went to the spirit hall, and offered incense and tribute. Still, I should go have a look as long as I don't disturb his life. He sighed as he prepared to leave the Chu residence to investigate the true events of the Chu family's past. He still couldn't let go of his sister in his heart. He decided to check on how his sister Zhenjin was doing these days. What should I do? Chu Chang'e asked, looking toward the man in black armor beside him. Young master, you only need to give me a drop of your blood, and I can use it to trace the bloodline and perform the secret technique, the man in black armor said. Upon hearing this, Chu Chang'e promptly forced out a drop of bright, clear, scarlet blood. Although in the demon path, there were many techniques that used another's blood to perform spells, even to attack stealthily. But he harbored no such worries. Knowing that his master had certain intentions for him, his life was no longer in his own hands. The man in black armor took the blood and formed hand gestures, turning the blood into a miniature, dark red snake. Young master, this blood-guiding snake will automatically seek out those related to you by blood, said the man in black armor. Let's go, Chu Chang'e said indifferently, nodding his head as he watched the blood-guiding snake, and he disappeared with the man in black armor from the courtyard. 7 days later, Qingzhou Mountain. Zhenjin has also stepped onto the path of cultivation? Chu Chang'e and the man in black armor followed the blood-colored snake and arrived outside Qingzhou Mountain. He immediately discerned that Qingzhou Mountain was a cultivation family's residence. He had not expected that his sister would come to the residence of a cultivation family and walk the path of a cultivator. Young master, I sense just now that this is but a small family. Inside is only one foundation establishment cultivator, said the man in black armor. Young master, would you like to enter directly or sneak in? He asked, his voice still carrying a fawning tone. Chapter 270. Breakthrough in Cultivation Level, Spiritual Root Promotion. _1 Chu Chang'e and the man in black armor walked through Qingzhou Mountain. The two seemed invisible, unperceived by the Lu family's watching disciples. Following the blood-guiding snake, Chu Chang'e arrived at White Deer Mountain Villa. He immediately saw a group of the Lu family's people picking up their children from school. From the crowd, He instantly spotted a woman in her 20s, with a gentle and beautiful face, wearing a pink and white dress. The woman was holding a child, walking alongside a man in his 20s wearing a blue robe. There were also 8 or 9 children following them, chatting and laughing. Even though it had been 10 years since they last met, Chu Chang'e recognized at a glance that this woman in the pink and white dress, with her gentle and dazzling face, was his own sister, Chu Zhenjin. Zhenjin, he called out in his heart, but he didn't make a sound, fearing to disturb her peace. Who would have thought? The once little girl has now become a mother. Chu Chang'e watched Chu Zhenjin holding a child, chatting and laughing with the man, and talking gently with the children nearby, his deep, silent eyes revealing a mix of happiness, relief, and heaviness, as well as timidity and confusion. He could tell that his sister was doing well here. Not only did her face carry a joyful and blissful expression, but she had also set foot on the path of cultivation. However, her cultivation level was somewhat low, only at the 4th level energy refinement. Then, his gaze shifted to Lu Changsheng beside her. He knew this must be his brother-in-law. As for his first impression of his brother-in-law, he found him quite favorable. Firstly, because he erected a monument for their parents and renovated the Chu residence. Furthermore, his appearance was handsome, matching his sister well. While speaking with his sister and the children, his demeanor was gentle, showing the attitude of a husband and father. He took a glance at Lu Changsheng's cultivation level. He found that he couldn't discern Lu Changsheng's cultivation level at all. He did not care much about this. After all, the cultivation world had many techniques and treasures to conceal one's cultivation level and spiritual power. Having such a treasure indicated that his brother-in-law must hold a decent status and identity within the family. He didn't use any spells to probe either, lest Lu Changxing sense his presence. Are all these children Zhenshins? Chu Chang'e turned his gaze toward the groups of children beside the couple, his heart skipping a beat. The children were mostly 5 or 6 years old, the oldest no more than 8 or 9. He remembered that it had only been a total of 10 years since he left home. In 10 years, his sister couldn't possibly have so many children, could she? The next moment he looked carefully. He could feel a blood connection only with the infant Chu Zhenjin was holding, as well as with an 8 or 9-year-old boy and a 6 or 7-year-old girl, which made him feel a kinship as their uncle. He knew only these 3 were his sister's children. Seeing there were only 3, he nodded slightly. If she had given birth to 10 children in 10 years, he feared he might have had thoughts of drawing a sword. Only this child has a spiritual root, huh? Chu Chang's eyes fell on the 3 children to whom he felt related by blood, focusing on Lu Chuanjin. Chu Zhenjin had given birth to 4 children. Among them, the first child, Lu Chuanjin, and the third child, Lu Caizhen, possessed a spiritual root. However, Lu Caizhen was still not of schooling age and was playing at home. I wonder what kind of spiritual root this child has. Chu Chang'e thought to himself. Throughout these years, although he had been constantly forced to cultivate in the darkness, he had also acquired a general understanding of the cultivation world. He knew that compared to the secular world, the cultivation world was even more brutal. A stark world of survival of the fittest, selection of the superior and elimination of the inferior. If his nephew's spiritual root was mediocre, he would face many hardships when he began cultivating as he grew up. Sigh. Chu Chang'e sighed. His heart had become numb and silent over the years. But at that moment he couldn't help feeling sentimental. He was not only worried about his sister's life but also, by extension, concerned about his nephew's situation. He shook his head slightly, choosing not to dwell further on these thoughts. Aware of his current situation, how could he afford to care about others? Watching Chu Zhenjin and others chat and laugh as they gradually moved away, he closed his eyes. Let's go. Chu Chang'e reopened his eyes, determination shining within them. He turned and walked toward the exit of Qingzhou Mountain. Now that he had seen his sister and knew she was living well, he felt at ease. He was acutely aware of his current circumstances. If he had too much contact with his sister, he would only bring harm upon her. What he needed to do now was to live well, strive to survive, and improve himself, until he possessed the strength to control his own destiny. No matter how dangerous the future might be, whether it was fortune or calamity, this was his only choice, his only path. Just as his master had said, in this world, only one's own strength is eternal. A breeze blew through, rustling the bamboo, causing a sense of utmost comfort and peace. Chu Zhenjin, who was talking to Lu Chongsheng, seemed to sense something. She suddenly turned her head, looking in the direction of Chu Chang'e. But there was nothing there. Zhenjin, what's the matter? Lu Chongsheng asked Chu Zhenjin. Nothing. Chu Zhenjin gently shook her head, dismissing the indistinct feeling. Lu Chongsheng was unaware of Chu Chang'e's visit. His daily life continued as usual, cultivating, making talismans, and spending time with his wife and children. There was just one more thing he did, refining the 9-treasure jade ruby. Indeed, the 9-treasure jade ruby, a heaven-reaching spiritual treasure, proved to be 100 times harder to refine than the black dragon magical bead had been. Even with the profound origin bead in his possession, and spending 1 or 2 hours a day on its refinement, it would probably take 3 to 5 years. Although this period was long, he was very much looking forward to the effects of fully refining the 9-treasure jade ruby and integrating it into his body. Chapter 271. Breakthrough in Cultivation Level, Spiritual Root Promotion. Before one realized, 2 months had gone by. Lu Chongsheng, I think I'm pregnant again. That day, Lu Miaohuan ran over and said to Lu Chongsheng. Initially, she had said she would only have 1 child. Yet now, barely a year after the first child's birth, she was pregnant again. She revealed a look of helplessness and frustration. Did you forget to force it out using your spiritual power? Lu Chongsheng was slightly taken aback upon hearing the words of the second mistress, before immediately responding. Even if not for the purpose of having children, the two of them often cultivated together. In such cases, if he did not control himself and Lu Miaohuan forgot to force it out, there was a not-so-small chance of getting pregnant. What should I do then? Lu Miaohuan pouted her red lips and spoke somewhat innocently. If you're pregnant, then let's have it. This will be the last one, Lu Chongsheng said softly, gently stroking her head with a tender expression. Lu Miaohuan nodded heavily. After spending some quality time accompanying the second mistress, Lu Chongsheng saw that it was already the end of the month. He then left the house and rode the Iron Feather Eagle to the Red Leaf Valley market. By now, Red Leaf Valley had been open for over 3 months. Yet, the popularity was still average and the streets looked desolate. In such a desolate state, the business of his Peace Talisman Hall was also very bleak. If it were not for the shop being his own with the current situation, it would be operating at a loss. After all, not only was the foot traffic low. At this stage, all the major shops were selling at promotional prices of 60 to 70% off for the sake of reputation and business, leaving hardly any profit margin. Lu Chongsheng walked around his own shop and checked the monthly account book for income and expenditures. Sigh, after deducting all sorts of raw materials and labor costs, we've only made 31 spirit stones in profit. It's not even enough to pay the rent. We actually have to put in money. Fortunately, in a year or two, the marketplace's foot traffic should gradually increase, and profits will recover somewhat. As Lu Chongsheng looked at this month's accounts, he couldn't help but feel speechless. This made Gao He, who was nearby, somewhat uneasy. Although it's common for there to be no foot traffic when the market first opens, and businesses are promoting to capture the market. But for a shop on the main street to make just over 30 spirit stones in a month. It was indeed embarrassing for him, as the talisman master and shopkeeper who presided over the shop. Lu Chongsheng waved his hand and did not say much more. He knew this was normal, because Lu Miaoge's spiritual talisman shop on the other side was the same. Due to its location and the franchise brand, their situation was slightly better than his. Shortly after, Lu Chongsheng visited the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop at Qingzhou, where he normally cultivated with his wife, Lu Miaoge, to enhance their bond and cultivation level. 1 month later, inside the Qingzhou Mountain practice room, Lu Chongsheng was sitting in meditation, practicing the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture. Suddenly, within the spiritual power sea of his dantian, the energy surged tumultuously. Sword qi encircled him, sharp and vigorous, as dust scattered and an indistinct spiritual pressure filled the air. 9th level qi refinement. Lu Chongsheng opened his eyes, and a faint smile appeared on his handsome face. He was not overly surprised by this breakthrough. After all, cultivating the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture, he had a rough idea of his own progress in cultivation. And such a breakthrough was natural for him, smooth and seamless. Lu Chongsheng took a look inside at his 7-colored Dan lake and felt the changes after the breakthrough. The spiritual power inside his body had increased by almost 30%. As his cultivation level broke through, the profound origin bead floating above the Dan lake began to rotate slowly. This magical artifact, too, had its effects enhanced as Lu Chongsheng's cultivation level advanced. Relying on the profound origin bead, could I now contend with an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator? Lu Chongsheng pondered, feeling the spiritual power boosted by the profound origin bead. Based on what he had seen in Red Leaf Valley, he felt that his current strength would allow him to withstand a few moves against a foundation-building great cultivator. If he were to employ all his techniques, he might even have a chance at killing a foundation establishment great cultivator. However, Lu Chongsheng merely entertained the thought without any real intention of pursuing it. Who in their right mind would seek out a fight with a foundation-building great cultivator? He vividly recalled Ancestor Chen's desperate self-destruction, wielding spiritual artifacts and heavenly thunder pearls. If not for absolute strength, both parties would end up wounded in a clash of spells. At this rate, I estimate that in 3 to 5 years, I will be ready to make a push for foundation establishment. With the foundation establishment spirit objects and foundation establishment elixir at my disposal, foundation establishment should be almost a certainty for me. Lu Chongsheng briefly settled the restless spiritual power and stood up, stretching his limbs and waist. He pushed open the door and stepped out of the practice room. Because the breakthrough had taken a long time, it was now deep into the night. Lu Chongsheng, looking at the moonlight, felt no urge for late-night moon gazing or sentimental musings. He went to Lu Miao's room. Seeing that she had already fallen asleep, he lifted the blanket and got into bed. Holding the lady in his arms, he too gradually drifted off to sleep. 6 days later, Lu Chongsheng's 102nd child was born. This child had a spiritual root. It was his 23rd child to possess a spiritual root. With the birth of this child, Lu Chongsheng felt an indescribable, profound sensation coursing through him. He knew that his own spiritual root had ascended. It had advanced from a 6th grade spiritual root to a 5th grade spiritual root. Lu Chongsheng was not surprised by this advancement of his spiritual root. Previously, he had sensed that his spiritual root was at the brink between the 6th and 5th grade. If another 6th grade spiritual root appeared, it might prompt an immediate promotion. It had been a while, and with the growth of his child's spiritual root along with the recent birth, the child probably had a 7th grade spiritual root. Thus, his spiritual root had naturally improved. System. Lu Chongsheng silently called out in his mind. Name: Lu Chongsheng. Status: son-in-law of the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain. Cultivation level: 9th level Qi refinement. Chapter 272. Breakthrough in cultivation level, spiritual root promotion. Lifespan: 30/156. Talent: 5th grade spiritual root. Gengjin body constitution: medium grade spiritual body. Cultivation technique: 100 refinements treasure body art. 7 luminaries great freedom sword scripture. Yin-yang harmony technique. Immortal beauty technique. Spell: 7 luminaries sword glow. 7 luminaries sword shield. 7 luminaries sword escape. Items: 9 treasure jade rui. Golden light brick talisman treasure. Black dragon magical bead. Book of Malevolent. Curses and Fates. Life-substituting talisman. Profound origin bead. Second rank puppet. Skills. Talisman making. Second rank. Puppet. Second rank. Spiritual pets. 9 netherhound. Peach blossom goo. 6-winged golden silkworm. Offspring. 102 out of 107. A 5th grade spiritual root. The same as Sister Mayaja's. Another step closer to the heavenly spiritual root. Moreover, it also helps me a bit more with foundation establishment. Lu Chongsheng looked at the spiritual root level on the system's interface and smiled, looking at the talent column that listed the Gengjin body constitution. As time passed, he could feel that this Gengjin body constitution was also improving in effectiveness as his son, Lu Qingshan, grew up. Spiritual bodies should fully form along with physical development, probably around the age of 11 or 12. Lu Chongxing thought to himself. A question suddenly occurred to him. Now that he himself possessed the Gengjin body constitution, if he were to have another child with the Gengjin body constitution, what would happen? Could the Gengjin body constitution advance and become a high-grade spiritual body? And what if the next spiritual body was conflicting with the Gengjin body constitution? Could it cause a conflict of spiritual bodies and problems with his own body? Lu Changsheng's mind wandered with these thoughts. After a while, Lu Chongsheng figured this was something he'd only know after the birth of his second spiritual body child. Looking at the system interface in front of him, Lu Chongsheng saw his age. He suddenly remembered he had inadvertently turned 30. 30 years old, 9th level energy refinement. This cultivation level, in a cultivation family like Qingzhou Mountain, would also be considered a genius. Lu Chongxing murmured to himself. Yet, he wasn't overly proud of this. At this age, being at 9th level energy refinement might be considered genius in a family like Qingzhou Mountain, but within the immortal sex it would only be considered average. However, he didn't mind this aspect. After all, his forte was having a solid foundation and being a late bloomer. Having this speed was already good enough. Not striving for the short term, but aiming for lifelong achievements. Besides, starting from scratch as the son of a poor farmer with a 9th grade spiritual root and having a system, he was quite content with his achievements after relentless efforts over just 12 years. There's a saying, at 30 one should stand firm. Now with 7 wives, 11 concubines, 24 maids, and 107 children, I guess I can say I've established something, right? Lu Chongxing suddenly thought to himself. Time flew by and half a year passed in the blink of an eye. During this period, Lu Changsheng's spiritual root children increased by 2. Both of these children also possessed spiritual roots. This brought the total number of his offspring with spiritual roots to 25, earning him a chance to draw a prize. Unfortunately, his luck with the draw was not very good. He drew a 2nd-rank Spirit Slaughterer skill from the 100 cultivation skills. The Spirit Slaughterer skill allowed Lu Chongxing to skillfully handle most demon beast carcasses without causing waste or damage during skinning, deboning, tendon extraction, and marrow retrieval. But for Lu Chongxing at the moment, this skill was quite superfluous and destined to be unused. After all, he had the skill of talisman making, which meant he didn't need to rely on the Spirit Slaughterer skill for a living. He never went out to hunt demon beasts for a living, because he did not need to rely on selling their materials. However, among the 2 children that were born, the child of Xiajiue possessed a 6th grade spiritual root. This delighted Lu Chongxing immensely. After all, among his more than 100 children, there were 25 with spiritual roots. But only Lu Qingshan had a middle grade spiritual root. The child of Xiajiue was his 2nd child to have a 6th grade spiritual root. However, when Xiajiue was pregnant with this child, Lu Chongxing did not let her consume her own origin source to nourish the fetus excessively. Otherwise, Lu Chongxing felt that Xiajiue, who was in the energy refinement middle stage, could have given birth to a child with a 5th grade or even a 4th grade spiritual root. But with the precedent set by the mother of Xiajiue, Lu Chongxing would not do such a thing. He could never bring himself to let a child's mother consume her origin source to the point of depletion and death for the sake of childbirth. He also planned not to let Xiajiue have any more children in the short term, and instead to let her rest and cultivate properly. He would wait until she reached the energy refinement late stage to discuss this matter. Even Lu Chongsheng was thinking, if Xia Jiue broke through to the foundation establishment stage, could she rely on her spirit-nurturing physique to conceive a child with a high-grade spiritual root? There's about a month left until the day of the 10-year agreement. I wonder how Feiyu is doing. On this day, after Lu Chongsheng completed his routine cultivation and talisman making, he remembered that there was about a month left until the 10-year agreement they had made. He was also curious about the current situation of Han Lin, Xiaoxia, and Zhao Qingqing, who were cultivating in the immortal sects, curious about how they were doing after these 10 years, whether the gap was gradually widening. At the same time, he thought about Li Feiyu, who had been out adventuring for so long without any news, and wondered how he was faring. In the blink of an eye, another half-month passed by. Just as Lu Chongsheng was preparing to go to the Rui County city for a gathering, he received a letter. It was a letter from Li Feiyu. In the letter, Li Feiyu first talked about his own situation, stating that all was well with him. Thanks to the talismans and spirit stones that Lu Chongsheng had given him, he had also broken through to the 5th level energy refinement. He was currently exploring a precursor's cave with others and was not sure he could rush back in time for the 10-year rendezvous. Therefore, he had someone deliver the letter in advance. If he did not return in time, he asked Lu Chongsheng not to worry or miss him. He also urged Lu Chongsheng to inform Han Lin, Xiaoxia, and Zhao Qingqing about this. Alas, Feiyu has ultimately chosen this path. Lu Chongsheng sighed lightly as he read the letter. He had previously guessed that Li Feiyu, by venturing out, would eventually follow a path similar to Xiaolong's, obtaining resources by hunting demon beasts, exploring precursors' caves, and secret realms. Or rather, this was the only way for most loose cultivators to stand out and seize the chance for foundation establishment. But such endeavors came with great risks. After all, it was akin to risking one's life at every turn, and a single encounter with danger or mishap could result in death and a forgotten grave in the wilderness. However, there was nothing Lu Chongsheng could do to dissuade this. Not everyone can live like him, safely marrying wives and concubines and having children, with the expectation of the great Tao unfolding before them. Nevertheless, Lu Chongsheng felt that the reason Li Feiyu might not come to the rendezvous was not just because he was held up by matters, but also because the gap among the 6 of them had grown too vast. Li Feiyu was once promising in his youth. But 10 years ago, among the 6, it was Li Feiyu who was in the worst situation. Now, 10 years later, Li Feiyu had still spent most of his time in vain. How could his proud nature endure that? Alas, Lu Chongsheng sighed again, hoping that Li Feiyu was safe and well. Flames appeared in his hand, and he burned the letter to ashes. After informing his wives and concubines, he mounted the iron feather eagle and set off towards Rui County City. Chapter 273. Xiaoxia's request _1 Rui County City. Inside the Lu family estate Wanxiang Garden. Huff, huff, huff. In the picturesque garden with its cobblestone paths, several martial masters were leading a group of children in martial arts practice, a morning exercise routine. Although these children were young, their movements were extremely agile as they swung their fists and kicked their feet. Wherever there was an issue, the nearby martial masters would immediately correct them, meticulous in every detail. A few of the children, around 10 years old, created gusts of wind with their fists and feet as they moved, signs of their growing strength. A little farther away, Lu Chongsheng, dressed in a blue robe with a jade-like countenance and a gentle expression, watched the children practicing martial arts. Now, under his arrangements, these children had begun martial arts practice to fortify their bodies. His eldest son, Lu Pingon, due to his diligence in the martial path, had already cultivated internal qi. According to the secular martial arts circles, which divided martial prowess into categories such as unranked, 3rd grade, 2nd grade, 1st grade, and innate, he was already considered a 2nd grade expert. A 2nd grade expert at the age of 12 was not unheard of in the secular martial arts circles, but it was exceedingly rare. Aside from a few individuals with exceptional talent, only descendants of cultivators could nurture children to such a level. After all, they were raised in lands with a spiritual vein, consuming spirit rice and spirit food. Their bodies contained little impurities. Such children learning martial arts were all seen as martial prodigies. Moreover, after sending these wives and children to the secular world, Lu Chongqing still regularly sent them spirit rice. However, such strength of a martial arts second-grade expert was still beneath the notice of the system. Lu Chongsheng checked his son Lu Pingan's panel information through the system. In the strength column, it still displayed a single character. None. Lu Chongqing didn't mind this. If in the early days he harbored some hope of improving his own strength through his children's martial practices, now, he did not entertain such thoughts much. He was more interested in them practicing martial arts for self-defense and maintaining good health. "Daddy, how well did I do?" After the morning practice session, Lu Wuyo cheerfully ran over to Lu Chongqing, calling out and asking with eyes full of adoration and dependency for her father. "You're the one who always slacks off." Lu Chongqing responded with a smile and ruffled his daughter's hair. Then, with a purification art, he turned it into a breeze that dried and cleansed his daughter's sweat-soaked clothes from training. Of course, he didn't play favorites. He did the same for all the children. Witnessing this, the nearby martial masters were filled with reverence. "All right, everyone's tired. Let's go have a meal." Lu Chongqing patted the children's heads and led them to have breakfast. The breakfast was very rich and nutritiously balanced. After all, this was a time when the children were growing. In this aspect, Lu Chongqing never stinted. He also wasn't short on money. After eating, Lu Chongqing took Lu Pingan and the other children to the backyard to feed the 9 netherhound. Raised for so many years, the 9 netherhound had grown as robust as a bull. Its mouth full of intersecting sharp fangs and its body covered in jet-black fur that shone like satin. Last year, the 9 netherhound had progressed to a first-grade middle-stage demon beast. But for Lu Chongqing, it meant little. To expect the 9 netherhound to give him a lift was clearly impossible, unless he was willing to spend a vast amount of resources to cultivate the 9 netherhound and accelerate its growth. But the cost was too great. Lu Chongqing, despite having plenty of spare cash, could not afford such expenses. He planned on raising it slowly. In the future, it would serve as his family's guardian spiritual beast, to accompany his children and protect them on their journeys. 6 days later. "Dad, Uncle Hong is here." While Lu Chongqing was chatting in the backyard with his wives and children, a little one ran over and exclaimed, "You guys keep playing, I'll head over there." Hearing this, Lu Chongqing guessed it might be Xiao Xia, Zhao Qingqing, and Han Lin who had arrived, so he left to greet them. After seeing Hong Yi, the latter indeed confirmed that Han Lin, Xiao Xia, and Zhao Qingqing had arrived and were outside the city. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing nodded and went with Hong Yi to receive them from outside the city. As the two approached the city gates, they immediately saw 2 women and 1 man, 3 figures coming their way. It was Xiao Xia, Zhao Qingqing, and Han Lin. Xiao Xia was dressed in pale moon white, with long black hair cascading down to her waist. Her strikingly beautiful face had not changed much in the past 10 years. Skin fair as jade, features delicate and elegant. She was breathtaking. But her overall appearance and demeanor had undergone an earth-shattering transformation compared to 10 years ago. Back then, she was characterized by her forthrightness and vivacity. Her face wore a bright smile that was as warm as the spring sun, easily inviting favor from those around her. The current Xiao Xia, however, had a cool countenance. Her aura was like that of the pure, untouchable moon shining high above, serene, noble, detached from the world. She was someone people would admire from afar, wary of approaching her without due reverence. Lu Chongqing, observing Xiao Xia's transformation, felt somewhat astonished. He was curious about what she had encountered over the past 10 years that had led to such a drastic change. Although she looked similar, she seemed like a completely different person. If it weren't for her presence with Zhao Qingqing and Han Lin, Lu Chongqing would hardly be confident that this was Xiao Xia. Meanwhile, Zhao Qingqing and Han Lin, aside from appearing a few years older and more mature, had not changed much from 10 years earlier. Taoist Xiao, Taoist Zhao, Taoist Han. Lu Chongqing did not ponder further but greeted them with a smile and a clasped fist. Hong Yi also seemed surprised by Xiao Xia's change but did not scrutinize further. With an open and natural smile, he clasped his fists and said, "My fellow Taoists, you've been well, I trust. Taoist Hong, Taoist Lu." Xiao Xia and her companions nodded to Lu Chongqing and Hong Yi, greeting them in return. They looked at Lu Chongqing, their eyes reflecting a similar surprise as they observed his demeanor, much like how Lu Chongqing and Hong Yi had reacted to seeing Xiao Xia. Chapter 274. Xiao Xia's request 10 years had passed, and their appearances and demeanors had all changed more or less. Take Hong Yi, for example, who now wore a purple, luxurious brocade robe and a purple gold crown on his head, and had grown a beard at the corners of his lips. Compared with 10 years ago, the whole person seemed countless times more mature and composed. Yet Lu Chongqing still had the appearance of a 20-year-old. His handsome and vibrant face still vaguely reflected the contours of 10 years prior. But his entire being appeared even more ethereal and graceful, refined beyond the mortal realm. Beholding him was like seeing a graceful, flawless beauty, noble and unsullied, like an orchid or a jade tree in spring, bestowing upon others a sense of serenity and detachment. If not for knowing Lu Changsheng's situation, they would have believed him if he claimed to be a core disciple of an immortal sect or a descendant of a grand cultivation family, given his temperament and looks. As Xiao Xia approached and saw Lu Chongqing, an inexplicable emotion surged within her heart, causing it to suddenly flutter. The supreme forgetful love technique that she was cultivating involuntarily began to circulate. This is... Xiao Xia paused slightly in surprise. She noticed that upon seeing Lu Chongqing, her heart, which was as tranquil as the bright moon, began to ripple slightly. After cultivating the supreme forgetful love technique, her heart had become like the moon in the sky, undisturbed by emotions and untrapped by feelings. No matter the event, it was difficult for anything to move her or cause a disturbance within her. However, at this moment, seeing Lu Chongqing made her heart flutter, involuntarily initiating the circulation of the supreme forgetful love technique. Could it be? This is the opportunity, the catalyst for my breakthrough? Xiao Xia's eyes, as cold and moving as the stars and the moon, reflected her thoughts. Having cultivated the supreme forgetful love technique, her cultivation level had reached the perfection of qi refinement. Yet due to her state of mind, she had always been unable to break through. Her master Yun Wanshang had given her 3 years. Now half of those 3 years had passed. She had also realized that she could not break through on her own. She must venture out, temper her heart in the mortal world, and use external forces to facilitate the breakthrough. That was the purpose of her coming down the mountain for this meeting. Thinking of the remaining year and a half, she planned to travel in the mortal realm in search of that breakthrough opportunity. Unexpectedly, she had just left the mountain and met with old friends, which had caused her heart to quiver and the supreme forgetful love technique to activate automatically. Why isn't Li Feiyu here? Where has Brother Li gone? Han Lin, seeing only Lu Chongqing and Hong Yi, asked aloud. Feiyu went out for experience last year and has been held up by some matters. He might not be able to make it back in time, so he asked me to apologize on his behalf, Lu Chongqing said, bowing his hands. I didn't expect Brother Li to have gone out for experience. Hearing this, Han Lin nodded slightly and didn't say much else. The 3 of you have had a tiresome journey. I have already made arrangements at the Rui Tower, still the same condensing immortal pavilion as before, Hong Yi said, stepping forward to lead the way. Presently, the 5 of them walked and talked on their way to the Rui Tower, the condensing immortal pavilion. Please take a seat, Hong Yi said with a cheerful smile after everyone was seated, serving spiritual tea and spirit fruit to the guests. Compared to 10 years ago, this reunion clearly lacked the same ease and familiarity. One reason was that their relationships had only been average to begin with. Having not seen each other for 10 years and with only the occasional exchange of letters, another was that 10 years ago, There were those who livened up the gathering and steered the conversation. But now, with Xiao Xia's cold and fairy-like demeanor, she hardly spoke. And with Lu Changsheng, Han Lin, and Zhao Qingqing naturally not being talkative people, and the absence of Li Feiyu, however, under Hong Yi's lead, Lu Changsheng, Han Lin, and Zhao Qingqing became actively engaged in searching for topics, gradually warming up and having a harmonious and congenial conversation. In the course of the interaction, Han Lin and Zhao Qingqing mentioned some of the happenings within the Qingyun sect and great events of the cultivation world, while Lu Changsheng and Hong Yi spoke of some worldly matters, events within the marketplaces. During this, Lu Changxing also mentioned his brother-in-law, Xia Zhaoyang. Lu Changxing hadn't paid much attention to this brother-in-law. He had only occasionally heard about his sister-in-law Xia Zizhu's brother in her letters. When Xia Zizhu sent letters, he had included a few dozen spirit stones as a gesture. It wasn't much, just a token of consideration as a brother-in-law, a simple investment. Xia Zhaoyang, I've heard of him. I never thought he'd actually be a relative of brother Changxing. Han Lin expressed surprise upon hearing this. Working in the Qingyun sect's artifact refining hall, despite being relatively unknown, he was well informed. Since Xia Zhaoyang possessed a 4th-grade spiritual root and had entered the inner sect and been taken as a disciple by a Foundation establishment elder, he was familiar with him. At this moment, the others also spoke of their recent conditions, which revealed to Lu Changxing that Han Lin had reached the 6th level of energy refinement, and that Zhao Qingqing, having recently exchanged for a high-rank breakthrough elixir from the sect, had broken through to the 7th level of energy refinement with the help of the elixir. This level of cultivation strength made Lu Changxing sigh with admiration. They were truly worthy of being Immortal sect disciples. Likewise, Han Lin and Zhao Qingqing were both outer sect disciples of the Qingyun sect. They were also tied up with side jobs and distracted by various skill-related tasks at times. Yet, under these circumstances, one had reached the 6th level, and the other had reached the 7th level of energy refinement. One must know Lu Miaoge, as the young lady of the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain with a 5th-grade spiritual root, had also only broken through to the 7th level of energy refinement at the age of 29. As for Hong Yi and Li Feiyu having lower-grade spiritual roots, one was still at the 4th level of energy refinement, and the other had only recently broken through to the 5th level. As for himself, Lu Changxing chose to exclude himself from comparison. After all, he had an advantage. Externally, he claimed to have only recently broken through to the 6th level of energy refinement. Brother Changxing seems to have the most leisurely life, embraced by the family of cultivators, marrying and having children, while steadily improving in both cultivation and the talisman path. Han Lin remarked with a sense of emotion. He had been the closest to Lu Changxing since the beginning. Although they had grown distant, he still felt some affinity for him. "Haha, I can't compare with your prospects of the immortal path." Lu Changxing waved his hand and chuckled in response. Then, turning to Xiao Xia, who had a cold and celestial appearance beside him, he inquired, "I heard that Taoist Xiao has been taken as a disciple by a nascent soul immortal. May I ask how your recent cultivation has been?" Chapter 275. Xiao Xia's request. Lu Changxing asked this out of curiosity about Xiao Xia's situation. Additionally, he felt that Xiao Xia seemed to be sizing him up continuously. "Over the years, I have been cultivating in stillness, and now I have achieved qi refinement to perfection. This descent from the mountain is also a trial to seek an opportunity for a breakthrough," Xiao Xia said gently, her voice clear, cold, and touching. Hiss! Upon hearing these words, everyone couldn't help but express their surprise, drawing in sharp breaths. Qi refinement to perfection, searching for the chance of a breakthrough. It was clear that she was looking for the opportunity to break through to Foundation establishment. Unexpectedly, in just 10 years, Xiao Xia had cultivated to qi refinement perfection and was preparing for Foundation establishment. The gap between her and the others could only be described as heaven and earth. Not only were Hong Yi, Zhao Qingqing, and Han Lin surprised, but Lu Changxing was also somewhat astonished. However, Lu Changxing was more bewildered. He remembered that Xiao Xia had only a 4th-grade spiritual root. A 4th-grade spiritual root, even within immortal sects, couldn't possibly have such a fast cultivation speed. Could it be that Xiao Xie possesses some sort of spiritual body? Lu Chongqing immediately speculated in his heart. He had a simple reason for such a guess. Xiao Xie was accepted as a disciple by a nascent soul immortal. If it were just a fourth-grade spiritual root, it was highly unlikely to be favored by a nascent soul immortal to become a disciple. At most, she would attract a foundation establishment elder to accept her as a disciple. After all, within the entire Qingyun sect, nascent soul immortals are few in number. Unless it was an earth spirit root or a heavenly spiritual root with truly extraordinary talent, they would not easily accept disciples. Or could it be the practice of a certain cultivation technique? Lu Chongqing thought of another reason. He, practicing the 7 luminaries' great freedom sword scripture, knew the significant help a good cultivation method could offer to a practitioner. Without that scripture, which could refine elixir toxicity and ignore minor bottlenecks, his cultivation speed would certainly not have been so fast. Therefore, he conjectured that Xiao Xie was likely also practicing such a technique. But this technique came with side effects. He had read in ancient tomes that many powerful techniques come with side effects, like masculine becoming feminine, drastic changes in appearance, major changes in character and temperament. Xiao Xie's current appearance, which had changed, made him suspect it was a case in point. Otherwise, how could there be such a dramatic change after just 10 years of cultivation? However, despite his speculation, this was not the kind of thing Lu Chongqing would inquire about further. In the cultivation world, one's constitution and cultivation methods are exceedingly private matters. Then let me extend an early congratulations to Taoist Xiao on a successful foundation establishment. Hong Yi immediately picked up his teacup in a daze and said so. When the 6 of them first took part in the Immortal Sect's examination together, he pursued Xiao Xie with feelings of admiration and love. 13 years have passed, and he has achieved some success in the mortal world. Yet foundation establishment still seemed to him an elusive term. But now, Xiao Xie was already preparing for foundation establishment, which left him feeling particularly moved. Wishing Taoist Xiao the opportunity and success in foundation establishment. We also wish Sister Xiao success in foundation establishment. We also wish Sister Xiao success in foundation establishment. Lu Chongqing, Zhao Qingqing, and Han Lin also raised their glasses to offer congratulations. Thank you. Xiao Xie's cool gaze softened somewhat as she raised her glass to drink with everyone, but her eyes involuntarily fell upon Lu Chongqing once again. She discovered that whenever she looked at Lu Chongqing, her heart experienced a faint, almost imperceptible flutter. If not for the operation of the supreme forgetful love technique, even Xiao Xie herself might think it was an illusion, hard-pressed to grasp this emotional flutter. To break through, do I really need to go through this emotional tribulation? Xiao Xie murmured to herself as she looked at Lu Chongqing. She thought of her master's teachings. To truly cultivate the supreme forgetful love technique to a state of heartlessness and forgetfulness, one must experience emotional tribulation to comprehend the essence of the supreme forgetful love. Although she didn't know why, facing Lu Chongqing, why such a flutter arose in her heart. But the spiritual mechanism within told her that her chance for a breakthrough might well lie with Lu Chongqing. Thinking that her opportunity for a breakthrough fell upon Lu Chongqing, requiring an emotional tribulation with him, her heart was somewhat in disarray, clueless. Over the years, she had been cultivating at Qingyun sect, with little understanding of matters of affection. She had only glimpsed such matters in books a few times. What's more, after practicing the supreme forgetful love technique, her heart had grown more indifferent, almost forgetting affection. Now, to face an emotional tribulation, she indeed didn't know how to proceed or where to start. Didn't I come down the mountain just to find this opportunity? Now that the chance is before my eyes, why should I hesitate? At that moment, Xiao Xie's conflicted heart became resolute. When she initially chose to practice the supreme forgetful love technique, she knew it was a path of no return. She understood that without the mindset of hearing the way in the morning and being ready to die in the evening, her progress in life would be halted with no hope for the great Tao. Now that the opportunity was right before her, it was naturally not to be missed. Moreover, from the recent chat, she had also learned that Lu Chongqing had numerous wives and descendants and rich experience in matters of affection. Perhaps it was for that reason that her breakthrough chance was connected to Lu Chongqing. Soon after, Xiao Xie gradually began to speak and joined in on some of the group's topics of conversation. Taoist Hong, Taoist Lu, you who cultivate within the turmoil of the mortal world and tainted with the breath of mortal concerns, it may affect your cultivation. However, if you temper your purity amidst the mortal world, it will assist in cultivation, mindset, and overcoming bottlenecks. When the conversation turned to cultivation, Xiao Xie spoke out, providing a few suggestions on their cultivation. She often had guidance from her nascent soul master and practiced the supreme forgetful love technique, which focuses immensely on mindset, hence she had many insights into this matter. Thank you for the guidance, Taoist Xiao, Hongyi said, visibly moved by the honor. Thank you for the guidance, Taoist Xiao. Chapter 277. My cultivation with the fairy. _1 Under the envious gaze of Hong Yi, Lu Chongqing left with Xiao Xie. I wonder how Taoist Xiao plans to travel on this trip? Lu Chongqing asked Xiao Xie. Since he had agreed, he naturally wouldn't just let the other stay at his home or in the marketplace without caring for her. He ought to show some hospitality as a host. To travel in all directions, observe all life, amidst the tumult of the mortal world. Xiao Xie said softly. Her words were not entirely empty. Indeed, to cultivate the supreme forgetful love technique truly required such experiences. However, she had skipped this step by using the red dust elixir. But the red dust elixir was, after all, an external object and had not brought her mind to a state of complete perfection. All life, the chaos of the mortal world. Lu Chongqing nodded thoughtfully. He felt that the cultivation technique practiced by the other must be no simple matter. After all, ordinary cultivation techniques like the returning origin technique and Changchun technique have no requirements in terms of mental state. Only cultivation techniques of the exquisite level and above have such requirements. This is also why the more advanced the cultivation technique, the harder it is to practice and the higher its threshold. I wonder if Taoist Lu has any suggestions? Xiao Xie asked with a calm and clear expression. Lu has no particularly good suggestions, but in the coming days, I can accompany Taoist Xiao to walk and see this mundane world. Later, we can also go to the cultivation marketplace for a visit. If Taoist Xiao wishes to hunt demon beasts or explore some cave heaven's secret realms, I am of too low a cultivation level to be of help, Lu Chongqing said. In the cultivation world, many people facing bottlenecks choose to hunt demon beasts or explore secret realms. By tempering themselves between life and death, comprehending the great terror within it, and stimulating their potential, they seek to break through their limitations. Although Xiao Xie did not share this situation, he still had to say this up front. Thank you for the trouble, Taoist Lu, Xiao Xie said, nodding slightly. Then, she looked toward Lu Chongqing and asked, as ripples crossed her calm eyes, Taoist Lu, your youthful appearance, is it because you practice wood or water elemental cultivation techniques? She was still unaware of why her heart fluttered in front of Lu Chongqing, prompting the imperceptible love technique to activate automatically. But looking at Lu Chongqing's handsome and youthful features, she couldn't help but wonder if it was related to the cultivation technique he practiced. The change in Lu Chongqing's appearance and temperament was indeed dramatic. 13 years had passed. She had almost forgotten what Lu Chongqing used to look like. Yet she faintly remembered that he was once unremarkable in a crowd. But now, even by her standards, she had to admit that Lu Chongqing was incredibly handsome. Not just handsome, his skin, physique, and temperament were all in perfect harmony, beyond reproach. One would feel at ease and a natural fondness looking at him. Xiao Xie naturally knew that many wood and water elemental cultivation techniques included effects that preserved youth and beauty. But in the qi refinement realm, ordinary cultivation techniques absolutely could not achieve the effect that Lu Chongqing had. Indeed, I am but a 9th grade spiritual root, so I chose to practice a wood elemental life-nourishing cultivation technique. As for preserving youth, I have also taken some elixir medicines for that purpose, Lu Chongqing said, without a blink or a quickened heartbeat. He had become quite adept at such talk. And because he cultivated the immortal beauty technique and was affected by the peach blossom goo, his appearance and temperament did indeed seem like someone who practiced wood elemental techniques for preserving beauty. However, Xiao Xie's inquiry also made him more vigilant. He wondered if the fairy Shi Yu could see something in him. After all, he was very aware of the changes in his own appearance and aura. If someone was observant enough, they might notice something. Therefore, he always used a treasure to conceal this aura in his daily life. Otherwise, with many years of cultivating the immortal beauty technique and the effects of the peach blossom goo, just walking down the street would be enough to captivate mortal women with a single glance. It even had a considerable effect on cultivators. I had no idea Taoist Lu was so concerned with his appearance, Xiao Xie said with a slight nod and a tinge of teasing in her voice. She realized that when she was with Lu Chongqing, her state of mind was no longer as undisturbed as usual, like the 9 heavens bright moon, free of ripples. This made her aware that she could use this to temper her own mindset. Since we are cultivating immortality, we should indeed have the appearance of cultivators. After all, with my talents and abilities, I have no hope for the great Tao in this lifetime, so I can only focus on such things, Lu Chongqing said casually. In the path of cultivation, what one fears is the loss of confidence. If Taoist Lu retains a thread of belief, there will surely be a glimmer of hope, Xiao Xie said to Lu Chongqing. I have taken your lesson to heart, Lu Chongqing said courteously with a slight bow, acknowledging her good intentions without being stubborn about it. Then the two walked and talked together as they approached the Lu family mansion. Daddy! In front of the mansion doors, Lu Shila sat on a small stool, eating a candied haw. Seeing Lu Chongqing return, she immediately got up and excitedly shouted. Then, the little girl's gaze shifted to Xiao Xie and she asked, Daddy, is this the new auntie? Fairy auntie. Hello, my name is Lu Shila, the little girl said, looking adorably at Xiao Xie with her crisp voice. Ahem, this is Daddy's friend. You can call her Aunt Shiyu, Lu Chongqing said, coughing lightly after hearing his daughter's words. He didn't blame the child for speaking out of turn. Then he turned to Xiao Xie and said, Please do not take offense, Taoist Xiao. No worries, your daughter is very cute. Xiao Xie shook her head slightly. Despite her usually cold and proud expression, her eyes and voice were gentle. Gracefully smoothing her moon-white dress, she crouched down to admire Lu Xiao's charming stance and asked softly, Little sister, how old are you this year? After all, as a disciple of a nascent soul immortal from the Qingyun sect, how could she have no destination when going out for training experiences? She would definitely have had someone plan her journey, or even have company. Moreover, he felt that Hong Yi might be more suitable than himself for this kind of wandering temperament. This reason felt strange to Lu Chongqing but was at most passable. But along the way, Lu Chongqing had been observing Xiao Xie closely. He noticed that Xiao Xie's gaze often lingered on him, and he keenly perceived that her eyes and demeanor were changing. This change was subtle and he couldn't describe it exactly. If he had to say, it was that she was not so cold, not so indifferent anymore. Today, when he and Hong Yi went to meet the three of them, he saw Xiao Xie's first glance and noticed the cool, holy aura about her. Like a fairy from the heavens, calm and indifferent, unapproachable. It was still the case when they arrived at Rui Building. Only after a long conversation did Xiao Xie's indifference gradually recede a bit. At that moment, Lu Chongqing realized that Xiao Xie was sizing him up but didn't think too much of it. After she proposed that he accompany her, Lu Chongqing became more cautious, so all along the way, by observing, he could confirm that Xiao Xie must have some purpose for him. Wait a minute. When she's with me, her expressions and attitudes change. Could this be? Lu Changsheng's mouth twitched. He suddenly felt like it might be akin to a goddess showing interest in someone, only then letting go of her usual aloofness. Although I'm quite charming now, it couldn't be this easy. Lu Changsheng stroked his chin. He was someone with a fair sense of self-awareness. He knew well that his charisma could be quite lethal to the opposite sex. But it was unlikely to make Xiaoxia, a fairy of her stature, fall head over heels and take the initiative to throw herself at him. Could it be? A flash of enlightenment struck Lu Changsheng's mind. His mental spirit stirred, tuning into the peach blossom goo spiritual essence within his forehead. He wanted to see if this thing was once again stirring up romantic fortunes for him. After all, his relationship with Xiaoxia was nothing extraordinary. Now that she had come down to wander the mortal realm, with such an unusual behavior, he couldn't help but speculate if romantic fortune was at play. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A faint activity arose from the peach blossom goo between his brows, conveying a sense of awareness, as if to tell Lu Changsheng it was indeed about romantic fortune. Good heavens! Receiving this feedback from the peach blossom goo, Lu Changsheng inwardly exclaimed in surprise. Understanding that Xiaoxia's abnormal behavior was indeed related to romantic fortune, he was at a loss for words for a moment. But it also eased his mind quite a bit. Knowing that Xiaoxia's request to accompany him carried no ill intent, no ulterior motive. Nevertheless, this romantic fortune is not so easy to deal with. Lu Changsheng took a deep breath and exhaled softly. To say he harbored no thoughts about Xiaoxia would be impossible. After all, this fairy Xiao was not only exquisitely beautiful but also possessed a fourth-grade spiritual root. She even had some kind of spiritual body. If she were just an ordinary inner sect disciple of the Qingyun sect, that would be one thing with some hope of a connection. But she wasn't just any disciple from the immortal sects. She was a disciple of a nascent soul immortal. With such status and identity, if he were to impregnate her and have children, chances are it would bring trouble. After all, being accepted as a disciple by a nascent soul immortal implies exceptional talent, and she would be entrusted with high expectations by the immortal sects, fully devoted to her cultivation. Chapter 279. My cultivation with the fairy. If I end up having several children, that would delay the prime of my early years. Qingyun sect might, for the sake of letting their disciples focus on cultivation and sever worldly ties, just sever me instead. By then, what was supposed to be a streak of romantic luck would turn into a calamity. So Lu Changsheng was very clear in his heart that a woman like Xiaoxia, he currently could not resist. Meanwhile, under the guidance of Lu Shila, Xiaoxia met the other wives, concubines, and children of Lu Changsheng. She knew that Lu Changsheng had married numerous wives and concubines, and had many children. But when she actually saw so many wives and children all at once, she still felt a bit surprised. However, she didn't know that these 20-plus children were only a small part. After separating from Lu Changsheng and spending some time chatting and playing with Lu Shila and a few children, Xiaoxia found her mindset gradually returning to tranquility and indifference. She reverted to her usual state of the supreme forgetful love technique. Is it really so? Xiaoxia murmured to herself, her eyes clear as water, detached and calm as she looked into the distance. She was almost certain that only Lu Changsheng could help her see through illusions and break through to the next realm. As for how to see through them, she had some idea in her mind. When she was by Lu Changsheng's side, her mental state was affected, causing the supreme forgetful love technique to operate automatically. If she could be unaffected in any way, keeping her heart tranquil and detached no matter what, she thought that would be seeing through the illusions and achieving a great state of mind. However, she still needed to continue to confirm this. In this manner, Xiaoxia stayed at the Lu residence. Lu Changsheng had planned to return to Qingzhou Mountain after the gathering, but due to Xiaoxia's presence, he changed his plans. He spent his time taking Xiaoxia to wander around Rui Prefecture, observing the so-called afflictions of life and the chaos of the red dust. Lu Chongqing himself didn't know what these afflictions and chaos specifically entailed, and Xiao Xie couldn't explain clearly either. So, considering that she came from a literary family and had entered Qingyun's sect for cultivation at the age of 15, he decided to show her some of the suffering of life, the hardships of the lower class, like the women who were forced into brothels, the roadside vendors in the streets and alleys, the roughnecks, the beggars with disabilities, the dock workers who labored in hard and toilsome jobs, the tea houses, the wine lodges, the restaurants, patrons of all different stripes. Chapter 281. Xiao Xie. So this is the love tribulation, Xiao Xie murmured to herself. Without realizing it, she reached out to touch her cheek, which was slightly warm. She didn't even know what had just happened to herself. Was she bewitched? She was clearly aware of what Lu Chongqing was doing, and yet, she still stole a glance. If I could completely control and suppress this emotion, perhaps that would be the time when my state of mind reaches completion and I can see through illusions. As she practiced the supreme forgetful love technique, Xiao Xie's emotions gradually stabilized. But the thought of having to completely control these emotions made Xiao Xie sigh quietly. She looked up at the bright moon hanging in the night sky through her window. Somehow, the scene she had just witnessed appeared again before her eyes. It caused her freshly calmed heart to flutter slightly. Xiao Xie did not dispel the embarrassing image from her mind. Instead, she chose to confront it directly, and even tried to imagine herself in it, because, for her, it was also a way to temper her state of mind. If she couldn't even control such emotions, how could she talk about transcending the emotional tribulation and seeing through illusions? It was unclear how much time had passed. Xiao Xie found she could now look at the scene without any perturbation. Face the image that challenged her Tao heart. By then, daylight had come. Xiao Xie stood up, straightened her moon-white dress, and applied a cleansing technique to herself. She prepared to find Lu Chongqing and have a frank discussion, to reveal the issues of the emotional tribulation, and explain last night's events. Lu Daoist. Xiao Xie went to the front courtyard and found Lu Chongqing. Because of last night's events, the sight of Lu Chongqing caused a faint ripple in her heart. However, after a whole night of tempering her state of mind, she didn't show any unusual signs. "Xiao Daoist, let's have breakfast before setting off," Lu Chongqing said casually. He didn't bring up last night's events. After all, it was somewhat awkward to discuss such matters. The best approach was to act as if nothing had happened. "It's not about that. I have something to discuss with Lu Daoist," Xiao Xie said, shaking her head slightly and speaking earnestly. Seeing her serious expression, Lu Chongqing knew she must have some important matter to discuss. Perhaps this was also why she came looking for him last night. Lu Chongqing immediately escorted Xiao Xie to a secluded side hall. He inquired, "May I know what Xiao Daoist would like to discuss?" "Lu Daoist must have noticed a clear change in me compared to 10 years ago," Xiao Xie said softly, looking at Lu Chongqing. Lu Chongqing nodded. And she took the initiative to say that she was planning to travel without a particular destination in mind and asked him to accompany her. The goal was to try to overcome her emotional tribulation through him and thus make a breakthrough. Now that she was being upfront, she likely wanted him to do something. As a good friend, helping Xiao Daoist with her troubles is naturally my unquestionable duty. I'm not sure how Xiao Daoist intends to undergo this emotional tribulation, but if I can be of help, Lu would naturally help. Since the other party had put it that way, Lu Chongqing felt it would not be good to refuse and thus spoke. "As for this matter of emotional tribulation, I am not very clear about it myself. Originally, when I was beside Lu Daoist, my thoughts would become disordered, and my cultivation technique would operate automatically. Therefore, I would like to ask Lu Daoist to cooperate with me in an attempt, but last night, Xiao Xie, with a cold expression, seemed as ethereal as a fairy from the Moon Palace, her demeanor supremely pure and holy as she explained her situation. After all, when she decided to practice the supreme forgetful love technique, she possessed the resolve to ask about the way in the morning and be prepared to die in the evening. Determination. Now that the way lay in front of her, she naturally wouldn't be coy like a young girl. Ah, this? After hearing Xiao Xie's words, Lu Chongqing was momentarily stunned. Although he had thoughts about Xiao Xie, he had suppressed these ideas for the time being due to her status and identity. But what she was talking about now, this undergoing of emotional tribulation, was entirely a proactive offering. In such a situation, saying he would cooperate was possible, and maybe with some deeper persuasion, he could even get Xiao Xie to have a child with him before she returned to Qingyun's sect. But Lu Chongqing did not harbor these thoughts. The identity of a nascent soul immortal disciple made him apprehensive. Regarding this matter of emotional tribulation, Lu also has some views, feeling that it may not necessarily require my involvement. Xiao Daoist can do this. Lu Chongqing pondered for a moment before speaking tactfully. If it were anyone else offering such an opportunity, he, Lu someone, would naturally not refuse. But Xiao Xie's status and identity were something he couldn't afford to provoke. Acting on it would not bring him much advantage, and it was likely to cause him endless embarrassment. Therefore, if she could resolve this emotional tribulation on her own, owing him a favor would be ideal. Is that really possible? Xiao Xie, after a moment of silence upon hearing Lu Chongqing's words, asked. Evidently, her heart was not entirely calm either. After all, her supreme forgetful love technique would be effected in front of Lu Chongqing. She couldn't achieve a state of absolute detachment. Xiao Daoist can give it a try. Lu Chongqing handed her a soft cushioned meditation mat. Immediately, the plan for both to tour the marketplace was revised. Inside the room, Xiao Xie, with a cold countenance, sat cross-legged on a pink meditation mat. Suddenly, her beautiful brows furrowed slightly. Then, on her cold and holy face, a hint of blush appeared, rendering her stunningly beautiful. The blush spread at a visible pace. It made her beautiful face flushed like the rosy clouds, her red lips slightly parted, and her breathing somewhat hurried. After a few breaths, the blush spread from her cheeks to her ears, making her delicate and lovely ears thoroughly red, and her snow-white, graceful neck also gradually reddened. The perfect and delicate body inside the fairy's moon-white dress also started to tremble slightly. The embroidered shoes covering her round and petite jade feet trembled lightly, restless and uneasy. A moment later, a suppressed heavenly sound emanated from the fairy's throat, causing her to furrow her brows in pain, then look befuddled, her red lips parted, as she collapsed to the ground. Huff! 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 Xiao Xie's bewitching eyes looked confusedly at the eaves, carefully observing the changes in her heart. In a daze, she realized the state of her heart at that moment, in that overwhelming, dreamlike instance, was somewhat similar to last night when she witnessed the scene that impacted her Dao heart. To break through illusions, one must control these emotions. Xiao Xie murmured to herself. She could feel that this method indeed helped her, bringing a hint of ease to her heart. It felt as if much of the irritability and stray thoughts regarding her cultivation breakthrough had diminished. Even her realm seemed to have loosened a bit. But it's still not enough. Xiao Xie operated her supreme forgetful love technique, her eyes cold and calm as she murmured to herself. Propping up her body with her fair arms, she straightened her dress. Then Xiao Xie pushed open the room door and went out to find Lu Chongqing. Lu Daoist, she knows this matter is making it difficult for you. If Lu Daoist is willing to help, she would be immensely grateful and ready to offer thanks. Or if Lu Daoist has any requirements, please feel free to make them. Also, she was willing to make a Dao heart vow that, regardless of the outcome of this emotional trial, success or failure, I will not involve or blame Lu Daoist. All consequences will be borne by Shiyu alone. So Lu Daoist can rest assured, Xiao Xie said, her eyes locked onto Lu Chongqing. A trace of heartfelt crimson flashed through her icy eyes, but was quickly replaced by a look of determination. Now that the opportunity for her breakthrough was within reach, even her Moon Palace serene heart of the supreme forgetful love technique could hardly suppress this sense of urgency. Lu Chongqing, upon hearing these words, pursed his lips. He could tell that Xiao Xie was sincere, and he was quite pleased with her proactive approach. A Dao heart vow might not be infallible, but for someone like Xiao Xie, who was single-minded in her cultivation, it was a reliably safe course of action. Since she had said so much, he felt he could agree to the arrangement. After all, he wasn't planning to make her bear children right now. Having made up his mind, Lu Chongqing said to Xiao Xie, "Since Xiao Daoist has put it that way, how can I refuse? There's no need for any lavish gifts. I only hope that in the future you can help me with one thing. I have yet to decide what it is. I will let you know once I have figured it out," Lu Chongqing stated. In his view, having helped Xiao Xie with such an intimate act as surmounting an emotional trial, Xiao Xie might as well be considered the mother of his future child. It was not convenient for him to take her home to be the mother now, but it would be no issue once he had the strength to do so. Considering Xiao Xie's current cool demeanor, if she continued to progress in her cultivation, she might become an icy statue. So it was necessary to plant a seed earlier on. After all, Lu Chongqing, never forced anyone. Upon hearing this, Xiao Xie's eyebrows knitted slightly. She would not have agreed to such a condition from anyone else, as it was akin to a sword hanging over one's head, making it difficult to cultivate in peace. But considering this was related to her great Dao opportunity and the cause and effect of her emotional trial, and given her interactions with Lu Chongqing over these days, she felt relatively confident about his character. Otherwise, she wouldn't have disclosed her emotional trial to him. She nodded and said, "As long as it does not go against the Dao heart, Shiyu will do her best to fulfill it when the time comes." Xiao Xie spoke, and then solemnly raised her hand to take the vow. She vowed that she would not blame Lu Chongqing whether the emotional trial succeeded or failed, and that she alone would bear the consequences of any event. Bearing a few children shouldn't count as going against the Dao heart, right? Lu Chongqing thought to himself, watching Xiao Xie make her vow. He nodded slightly and said to Xiao Xie, "How do you plan to start?" At these words, Xiao Xie blinked in surprise. She knew her emotional trial was related to the affections between men and women, her own desires, but how to begin or what to do next, she found herself at a loss. After all, in this matter, she was truly clueless. The next moment, she saw Lu Changsheng's handsome face drawing closer. A warm, moist breath approached her lips and enveloped them. A blush like blooming snow lotuses crept onto Xiao Xie's face. Her heart pounded furiously, wanting to push Lu Chongqing away, but the surging shyness and desire within her, controlled by the supreme forgetful love technique, suppressed her instinctive reaction. Her eyelashes quivered as she hid her embarrassment, her face filled with bewilderment and helplessness, allowing him to take the lead. You're tuning in to the Legend of the Vagabond YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.